Good morning, everybody out there. Hope everyone's having a great Tuesday. Great start to your week. And we are live, and make sure we're live everywhere we're supposed to be live. We are good on Rumble. Good morning. We're good on YouTube. Good morning. Good on X. Good morning. Good on Facebook. Good morning. Good on LinkedIn today. Yesterday, LinkedIn was giving us some issues, but we're good on LinkedIn. We're good over there on TikTok. Good morning. Give me your locations as you are checking in. Tell me where you're checking in from. And looks like we are active on Instagram as well. Let me get my comment pinned on IG. Today, I'm expecting to have an announcement for new thing that we're going to have out now that we finally got some internet tech support stuff finally cleared up. That'll be addressed, or that announcement will be coming out later on today. Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Good morning. Let's see what we got over on TikTok. Nikki, good morning. We got Margaret, good morning. Texas is in the house. Shout out to Texas. Charlotte is in the house. Shout out to Charlotte. Bristol, Tennessee. New York. I am checking in from South Florida. Today we're going to talk about Joe Biden. We got to talk about Joe Biden. Former President Joe Biden. Scranton Joe. That's what we got to talk about here. Joe Biden. We're going to talk about this whole cover-up because this is looking like it was a cover-up. That's what it's sounding like to me. That's what it's smelling like to me, that this was a cover-up, this whole situation with President Biden and his, quote unquote, mental decline. What we are starting to find out is that maybe it wasn't a mental decline. Maybe it was a mental decline, but maybe it wasn't. Maybe this guy had a terminal illness the entire time and nobody talked about it. That's what we're going to discuss here today. Carla, Indiana, good morning to you. Sounds like this was a cover-up. That's what this is starting to smell like. I was listening to this guy. He's a doctor. He was on Megyn Kelly yesterday, and they're probably going to talk about this even more here today because not here, but on the Megyn Kelly show, which I do listen to daily. She had a doctor on there, and the doctor was explaining, I'm not going to try to explain it the way the doctor was explaining it, that this type of cancer, you would get this diagnosed like 5 to 10 years ago. It would have been diagnosed. Even President Trump said the hospital that the presidents go to is like the best hospital in the country. They got the best doctors in the world. They would have found this way earlier. The type of diagnosis that Joe Biden has. The case, those of y'all don't know, just yesterday they came out with this diagnosis that Joe Biden is diagnosed with cancer, and they allegedly just found it like 2 days ago. And doctors are saying, wait a minute, this type of cancer at that stage with this guy who has the best doctors in the world tending to him, there's no way that they just now found out that he has this. Based on the statistics and based on the way it works and based on the way the cancer grows in the body, there's no way they just now found this out. It doesn't add up, and it logically doesn't add up based on medical experts. So here we go, deferring to the experts. They said this is not adding up at all. Even the guy who worked on Obamacare, who's supposed to, I guess, be on the Democratic side, even he was saying it doesn't make any sense. And there's going to be more conversation about this here today in the news, and I'm going to listen to a little bit more of it myself as well. But they're coming out with this in a what's the word? A very convenient way. Just as this week, in case y'all don't know, there's some books about the Biden administration coming out that are going to be critical of the Biden administration and the cover-up, as many people are calling it, the cover-up of what was happening with Joe Biden. Was he mentally declining? How much did people know? Who knew? Who was covering it up? Who was acting like they didn't know? From Kamala Harris to the people in the news, to the people in the administration, to Dr. Jill Biden, and all these people. And she actually does have a doctorate degree, but she was using the term doctor. We ain't going to talk about that here today. That's what we're going to discuss. All of this is the cover-up of the Joe Biden situation and how this is all looking really, really fishy. And just conveniently, a couple of days before the books come out that are going to expose what was happening in that administration, all of a sudden they found out that he has cancer. So the reason that they're doing this, my theory as to why they're throwing this out there right now is twofold. Number one, they want to get ahead of the news cycle, which eventually it may come out that Joe Biden actually has this and they won't be able to hide it anymore. So let's put it out now so that when the books come out, then that we can at least say, hey, well, he's just got diagnosed with cancer and maybe he's had it the entire time, but we just found out. We didn't know. We just found out, which again sounds fishy. Doesn't smell right. And number two, I've seen a lot of politicians using this one right now, and people on social media who are paid by the politicians to say, well, hey, this guy's dealing with this terminal illness. There's a hard time in his life. He's been a patriot. Basically, the appeal to emotion plea. The appeal to emotion is this guy's going through a hard, challenging time, him and his family. Why would anybody put out a book? Maybe they should delay putting out the book about him. It's critical about his administration because he's got diagnosed with cancer. This is a whole play. This is a whole game that they're playing. And then they're going to try to shame anybody, from me to Megyn Kelly to any other politicians and anybody out there who has a large platform talking about politics, to say anything about the Biden administration because, hey, he's got cancer. You shouldn't talk about him at all. Let's just be quiet because he has cancer right now. So it's not a good time to talk about him. Let me ask you a question. The day that Donald Trump passes, do you think that any of these same people are going to be saying the same thing? Hey, let's not talk about him at all because, his family's going through a difficult time. Anybody saying that? When Donald Trump, when the attempts was made on his life in Butler, PA, were there any people on the political left saying, hey, let's not say anything negative about Donald Trump for a week or two or a month or two, simply because his family must be going through a challenging time because someone just tried to take his life. Let's just relax a little bit talking about him. I didn't hear anybody saying that. But now they want to use it for Biden. But let's get into everything we got to talk about here today. Let me introduce myself first. For those who don't know me, my name is Dre Baldwin. Many know me as Dre all day. I'm a former 9-year pro athlete. I'm the author of 41 books. I've done 4 TEDx talks, and I own this company called Work on Your Game Incorporated. What we do over here is coaching and business consulting and training to help professionals perform at their highest level, do so consistently, and of course, produce more results, making more money. So systematizing and scaling businesses, helping sales teams, helping people start and expand their businesses. All of this starting on the foundation of mindset, strategy, systems, and accountability. You can find out more about that at the links that you see in my profile or bio, whatever app you're watching me on. I'm live on 7 different applications right now: TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Rumble, X, YouTube, and I think that's all. I might have missed one, but I'm live on 7 different platforms right now. You can find a replay to this stream will be on my YouTube channel, which you can find a link to that either in my profile or just look me up on YouTube. I'm pretty easy to find. So let's lay out the foundation here. I just gave you a little cold opening, just my perspective on this, but laying out the foundation, what exactly is occurring for those of you who are just completely unfamiliar with what's happening. So there's a conversation around former President Joe Biden. Everybody knows who that is, right? And has reignited the conversation about him. He's been gone for a while, maybe longer than we think. And it's reignited because there are new books and reports beginning to surface about exposing what people say was a long known but deliberately hidden truth, that he was mentally declining during his time in office. I think all of us can see that, even if you voted for the guy. Now, with the sudden announcement of an aggressive cancer diagnosis, conveniently timed just days before these books come out, I think the book is coming out today, I believe, more questions are surfacing. Did he have cancer while in office? We're never going to get a straight answer, not from anybody on his side about that. Was that covered up as well? And that 2024 debate in July, the one that basically put the nail in the coffin of Joe Biden's presidential run, that was a turning point. But insiders suggest that the decline and the illness were both known and hidden for years, way before that debate. And as media figures, political allies, and former staffers rush to revise history, the public is left questioning. That's us. We are questioning how deep the deception ran and who should be held responsible. Now, off the top, was there a deception? The answer is hell yes, there was a deception. Forget about the cancer diagnosis. Forget about the cancer. Everybody saw that debate in July of 2024. Joe Biden was saying things that didn't make any sense. He sounded like somebody's grandpa who has just lost control of his mental faculties. He sounded like the grandparent who you got to take their car keys away because you know that they shouldn't be driving the car anymore. He sounds like he looked like the person who might be getting shipped off to a nursing home if he was from a family that was willing to go that way. That's the way he looked at that July 2024 debate. And people tried to say the day after that debate, you saw people on the political left saying, oh, anybody could have a bad night. Like, really? Really? He had a bad night? No, a bad night is that maybe you missed on some of the questions, or your opponent got a slam dunk on you that got clipped out and spread on social media. That's having a bad night. You stammering over words and saying things that don't even make sense intellectually on the grand stage of the country, everybody looking at this, that's not a bad night. That is a person who was in mental decline. We knew this guy was in mental decline from maybe even the time that he ran for office, and throughout his campaign, we knew this, regardless of the cancer diagnosis that now, again, they just conveniently came out with the other day. This was a cover-up, and everybody knows it was a cover-up. Even the people on the political left know it was a cover-up. And what they're doing now, and I've seen some of this on social media here today, is people trying to basically poison the well So they call it the poisoning the well fallacy when people say, well, I know what's in the book and there's a whole bunch of nonsense and these people are just trying to sell books, which is the stupidest thing you can say about somebody writing a book. What the hell you write a book for if you don't want to sell the book? Of course you want to sell books. But anyway, they're saying these guys are just trying to sell books and they're just trying to beat down on Biden. They're trying to use his name to trash him. And they're basically trying to tell you that you shouldn't even read the book because there's nothing to see here. That's basically what they're doing. This is the nothing to see here approach. Don't even look. Don't look this way. Don't look that way. Don't pay any attention. Nothing's happening over here. Don't pay attention at all. And they're trying to get people to not even pay attention to what's in the books. And I believe Jake Tapper and there's somebody else, I can't remember the other guy's name, are two co-authors on this book that's coming out today. And Jake Tapper is going to be on Megyn Kelly. She's been talking about this for like a week, that she's going to have Jake Tapper on there and she's going to challenge him on some of the things that he is now saying in the book. But when he was working on TV during the Biden administration, he was one of the people defending Joe Biden and trying to help with the cover up of Joe Biden. And now he's coming out with a book saying, well, there were no shadow things happening in the administration that they didn't announce. And Megyn Kelly's looking at it like, hold on, bro. You were one of the people who was defending Biden and acting like there was nothing to see here. But now you're coming out with a book with revisionist history talking about, oh, there were all these crazy things happening. Like, mofo, you were one of the people that was covering it up. So I'm interested to hear that interview. And again, Megan's been touting this interview for like a week. So I'm interested to hear what happens with her and Jake Tapper. She is pretty good at challenging people on their bullshit. And we'll see how that goes. But anyway, was this a cover up? The answer is, of course, this was a cover up. But let's talk about why and how it was a cover up. And I'm going to take questions and comments at the end, by the way. So if you have a question or comment, wait till the end. We got about 42 minutes of material that I'm going to go through here. I got a timer right here telling me how much time I got. Then we'll get to the comments. So if you got something you want me to see, wait till I get to the comments. Multiple books, as I already said, are coming from people who worked in the Biden administration. These are people who worked there, staffers, aides, media insiders, and the books are confirming that these people knew Biden's cognitive decline and potential health issues. They knew about these things. They just had to cover it up and then act like they didn't know and not say anything about it. So critics are saying, people who are trying to defend Joe Biden right now, why and how? Well, we know why people are defending Biden. Let's talk about that. People are defending Biden because it's the whataboutism of, well, look at Donald Trump. All right, we shouldn't be. I saw somebody say this morning on X. They were saying, well, why is anybody paying attention to Joe Biden and talking about him when he's going through a difficult time with himself and his family, when instead we need to pay attention to the current inhabitant of the White House, who is a terrible person and he's doing these bad things, et cetera, et cetera. All they're doing is saying, don't look at this, look at this. That's basically what they're trying to do. They're trying to say, and there's a certain fallacy. I was just looking this up this morning. It is called let me find where it is. There's one that I didn't know about, but I'm like a student of logical fallacies. So this one is called the relative privation fallacy. So this is a new one. So I learned something new today. The relative privation fallacy, which basically is there are more important things to pay attention to. So anytime you see somebody using that, like, hey, don't anybody talk about Joe Biden and how his administration did a cover up. How about we talk about how terrible Donald Trump is? That is a fallacy that is called relative privation. Privation simply means what's the most important thing. So privation is the absence or lack of something necessary, like food, clothing, and shelter. And relative privation just means, hey, let's not talk about this issue because there's a worse issue you should be looking at over here. So that's what a lot of people are trying to do with this Joe Biden situation. So they're saying that you're just politicizing his age, and this is ageism. That's a new one people got. People only start talking about ageism when Joe Biden ran for president. I never heard that term before, ageism. So now it's ageism, and now they're going at his health and his illness. These are sensitive topics, and you shouldn't talk about this because this is a rough time for his family. Fuck that. Okay, fuck that. All right, this guy was the president. He ran for president. He said he had a clean bill of health. There was, what's the guy's name? Cuomo is on there saying nobody can ask if he's cogent. He's very cogent. You want to see cogent? I just talked to him last week, and he was extremely cogent. He was extremely sharp. He was witty. He knew everything that was going on. And this is what they had to say to defend Joe Biden at that time. And now these same people are coming around and saying, how do we not know? How did they not tell us? This is the reason why we don't trust the media anymore. This is the reason why we don't trust mainstream media. This is the reason why journalism is dying, is because these people are picking sides, and then they are using the frame of their positions as a shield against any bullshit that they get called out for. And I'm sure there are people in the comments right now, and when I get to the comments, we'll see. I'm sure there are people in the comments right now saying, well, hey, you are not a doctor, so you're not allowed to talk about these things. See, that's the bullshit frame. That's the bullshit frame. If you get in a car accident and your leg is broken in half, and I say, hey, it looks like your leg is broken in half, are you going to say, well, you're not a doctor? Go get a doctor. Let me be sure. No, mofo, we can see your leg's broken in half. So this whole frame of, well, we got to talk to an expert or we got to hear from an expert. People only say that need to hear from an expert when they're hearing something that they disagree with. But if I was saying something that you agreed with, if I was saying the exact opposite here today, there was no cover up and Joe Biden was great and he just happens to be old and they just found out about the cancer today. The same people who are attacking me now and saying, hey, you should get a doctor and talk to a doctor because you're not a doctor, you're not an expert, therefore you're not allowed to talk about it. Those same people will be agreeing with everything that I'm saying, even though I'm still not a doctor. So this whole defer to an expert, this appeal to authority frame that a lot of people use when they hear something that they disagree with, they only use it when they disagree. But they don't use that. They fail to use that exact same frame when they hear something that they like. So just consider that. Anybody in here who is defending this Biden cover-up, you wouldn't have a problem with it if I was defending it the same way that you're defending it, even though I'm still, again, not a doctor. So this mental state and now confirmed illness were visibly deteriorating state that Joe Biden was in the summer of 2024 that became so obvious that they had to pull him out the race and they had to throw Kamala Harris on a ticket that she would not have earned on her own. All right, those closest to him reportedly worked overtime to hide it. I mean, is that news? We knew this. Who was running the country the last 8 months of 2024? Let's go back before Joe. I say around this time. So I'm recording this. This is May. So May of 2024. May, June, July, August, September, October, November. Who was running the country? Who was in charge? According to what I heard, according to what I read, there were cabinet meetings happening in the White House. And you know who was running the meetings? Y'all know? Anybody know the answer to who was running those meetings? Jill Biden was running the meetings. Jill Biden, not Joe Biden. Jill Biden. Dr. Jill Biden was running the meetings. Jill Biden was not elected to anything. She was not elected. She didn't win any elections. She was not appointed to anything. She was not hired for anything. See, Elon Musk, at least he was hired. At least he was appointed by Trump. Jill Biden wasn't elected for anything. She was sitting in and running meetings that Joe Biden was not even at, that was supposed to be presidential meetings. This was happening while Joe Biden was allegedly president. And again, the mainstream media, it got out, but it wasn't a big firestorm of a story, mainstream media. Could you imagine, just imagine, since people want to talk about Donald Trump, imagine if Donald Trump was sick or in any way, or he was showing any signs of mental slippage, or he was diagnosed with cancer, and Melania Trump was sitting in and running meetings in the White House. Can you imagine what the media would be saying about that? What would they be saying? All right, that would be crazy. People would be going crazy. People would literally be going crazy if that was happening with Trump and Trump's wife, because Trump was suffering in some way or falling behind mentally in some way or show any signs of slippage. Joe Biden was holding up a big flashing sign of slippage, and everybody tried to act like it wasn't happening. His wife is running meetings. Everybody was acting like that wasn't happening. And don't look at that, look at this. Bullshit. So cancer, some say, the defenders of Biden say cancer is a private matter, and people say it's unethical to demand full medical transparency from public figures. Bullshit. If you are a public figure and you are campaigning for a job, I want to know everything about you. I want to know your dog's name. I want to know what kind of dog food he's eating. I want to know what your cat is doing. I want to know how long the grass is in your backyard. I want to know everything about you because you are coming to work for my company. All of you who have jobs, maybe they don't ask for your medical records at your job, depending on what kind of job you have. If you're an athlete, they want your medical records. They want to know everything about you physically. For example, if you play a professional sport, you're about to get, let's say, drafted to the NBA or the NFL, they get every medical record you've ever had. If you've ever been to the doctor, they want to know about it. They want to know every time you coughed in the last 3 months. They want to know everything about you physically because they are about to put a big financial risk on you and your body, because your body is your business when you're an athlete. They want to know everything about you. And if they don't like how those medical records look, they will not choose you. Therefore, they won't employ you. Therefore, you don't get the money. You don't pass go. You don't collect $200. You don't get anything if they don't like what that medical record looks like. When you are applying for a professional job that maybe is more based on your intellectual skill, they want to know everything that you've done with your intellectual skill over the last, as long as you've been a professional. They want to know the last job you had, the job before that, what your bosses say about you. They want 12 references. They're going to bring you in for 8 rounds of interviews. Isn't this the way it works? They bring you in for all these rounds of interviews, and even then, you still might not get the job. Why? Because they want to vet you. They want to know everything about you. So the president of the United States is the biggest job in the country. The most important job in the country is being president of the United States. You're running for president, especially as you are aging and getting older, like Joe Biden was when he ran in 2020. We want to know who you are. We want to know your background. We want to know where are you physically? Where are you mentally? Are you mentally sharp? Are you going to be able to make it through another, let's say, 4 more years if you were to win the presidency? We want to know all this stuff. This is all things that we demand to know of our leaders before they get elected. So this whole concept of cancer is a private matter and is unethical to demand full medical transparency from a public figure, this is nonsense. And according to the doctors that I heard on the Megyn Kelly show yesterday, he said that, again, in 97% of cases, this type of cancer that they announced he has, and at the stage at which it is and where it was located, you usually see this 5 to 10 years before it gets to this point. So the point that Joe Biden's cancer is at now, any doctor would have found this 5 to 10 years ago, early stages. How are they just now finding it today? Especially with an older president who has access to the best doctors in the world. How did they just now find this out? How? Please explain that to me. Here's what I predict. This is just a theory of mine and a prediction. That what's going to happen is eventually is going to become obvious as more doctors come out confirming what that doctor said, that this was known already, that some doctors are going to come out and they're going to play the appeal to morality card. And here's what they're going to say. They're going to say that, yes, it was known. Yes, we knew about it in 2020 or 2019 or whatever. We knew about it sometime during either the campaign or the Biden-Harris administration that he had cancer, or it is obvious that it was known. But even though we knew, or somebody had to have known, it's okay. This is what the doctor's going to say. It's okay because what was our alternative? Our alternative was having Donald Trump as president. And because we wanted to make sure Donald Trump didn't win, we were willing to go along with anything we need to go along with to make sure we at least got Joe Biden in there to get Donald Trump out of office. I guarantee you this is coming. Actually, no, I'm going to guarantee it. I'm going to bet this is coming. I'm not going to make it a guarantee. My theory is that someone's going to come out and say just this. Someone in the medical space, like a doctor who was going to confirm, like they had to have known about this. However, this is the reason why it's okay. That's what they're going to do. This is the appeal to morality. Because Joe Biden is just, having Joe Biden as president is morally superior to having Donald Trump as president. Then it makes it okay that they covered it up. Somebody's going to come out with that argument. And again, someone in the medical space is going to come out and say that. Just pay attention. So July 2024, we all know what happened, right? That was a debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump that sealed the deal on Joe Biden's presidential term. That was pretty much the end of his days as president. That debate made the mental decline undeniable. All right, after that debate, everybody's like, this ain't looking too good. This is pretty much a wrap. Now this cancer reveal appears to be part of the damage control, which is what I said earlier. This looks like damage control. In other words, they already knew that he had cancer. It is not new to Joe Biden or to Jill Biden, Dr. Jill Biden, or to his family or the people close to Joe Biden. It is not news to them that Joe Biden has cancer. They already knew he had cancer. They're just putting this out right now as a way to do damage control to get people to feel sympathy for Joe Biden when these books are about to come out and make him look bad. So they're basically trying to counterbalance the books coming out and making him look bad. And they're using this as, again, it's a sympathetic play, and it's also getting out ahead of the curve because something is going to be in these books. Somebody might say in the book, hey, this guy might have something more than just mental decline. It might be more than him just being an old guy. There might be something more to this. Somebody's going to suggest that in one of these books that's coming out this week. And they're going to put the cancer diagnosis out there to basically be a coverall for everything that's going to be in these books. That is just my thoughts on why they're doing this right now. I do not believe that they just now found out Joe Biden had cancer. I don't believe it. I think they knew. And they just covered it up as long as they could. And here's the part that is ridiculous, though. Like, even the fact that they knew about it and they covered it up. I mean, is that technically a crime? No. Can they be held accountable for it and talked about for it? Yes, which is what we're doing. But here's the part that's crazy. Why didn't they just get Joe Biden to drop out in 2024? Why did whoever knew that he had the diagnosis, whoever knew he had cancer, let's just assume that I'm right and they knew he had cancer. If they knew that you have cancer and you've had it for a few years and you know it's going to get worse and the doctors have told you it's going to get worse and there ain't a damn thing we can do about it because there's no cure for cancer, how did they allow him to basically bogart his way into running for re-election in 2024? How did that happen? Right? That doesn't make any sense to me. How could they not have just talked him out of it? I'm assuming this is the things that I heard in the summer of 2024, around this time actually last year. This is what people were saying, is that Joe Biden was adamant that I'm not walking away, and he technically had the position of president. And the only way he was going to walk away is he had to decide to walk away, or someone would have to convince him. And what I heard was that a bunch of people tried to convince him and they failed. They just could not convince him to walk away. He said, no, I won. I have a right to run again for re-election. I want to run for re-election. And he just wanted to basically serve his ego. I get it. Joe Biden is, I mean, even though he's old and in mental decline, he is a man and he has testosterone. He's got some drive. And I mean, he was in politics for what, 50 years? He finally got his chance to sit on the throne in the number one spot. All right, would you walk away from that so easily? Probably not. I mean, he was in politics for a long time, and he finally got to the number one spot. Why would you walk away? I got a chance to do it again. Why not go for it again? Why not? I believe that's what happened here, and nobody close to him was able to convince him to step back. Let's have an open primary. Throw Kamala in the open primary and everybody else in the open primary, and let's just see what happens. I believe that's part of the deal as to why they weren't able to get him to just bow out gracefully when the 2024 campaign was coming up. On top of the fact, this was combined with the prospect of Donald Trump's comeback. Now, again, in 2024, we weren't quite sure there was going to be a Donald Trump comeback, because let's remember what happened in 2024. The lawfare, all those lawsuits, all those court cases against Donald Trump, the attempts on his life. Maybe Donald Trump won't be the nominee. Now, Donald Trump ended up being the nominee by the summer of 2024, but they still kept trying to take him out. So I think some people said, because by the time that debate happened in July, I think that some of the Democrats who might have a chance, Shapiro, Whitmer, what's the other guy's name from California, Newsom, that all these people are looking at the landscape and saying, all right, well, Trump has this momentum. It looks like he's beating these cases, and he's probably going to be the nominee, and he's got a bunch of energy behind him. Why would I waste my run at president going at this guy? He has a ton of momentum. I'd rather wait till 2028. I think a bunch of Democrat candidates who could have ran in 2024, once they saw that Trump was going to be the person and he started beating those cases and they started falling apart, they said, I'd rather save my powder, keep my powder dry till 2028 when I have a chance to actually win against somebody who's not Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a different type of person when it comes to political campaigns. So that's what I think was part of the deal. By the summer, though, before that, in like February, nobody even knew Donald Trump was even going to run, because it looked like he wouldn't get a chance, because he'd get taken off the ballots. He might be in jail. He's going to have all these things against him. He won't be able to run. If they had done it from the beginning, you could have had a more proper candidate in 2024. So any of you who's a Democrat voter or you're on the political left, this is where they screwed up by not being able to convince Joe Biden to get the hell out of there, or Joe Biden just saying, I ain't getting out. I don't care what any of you mofos say. I won. I'm in the number one spot, and ain't none of y'all going to tell me what to do. I can see Joe Biden having that kind of conversation. Now, I don't know if he said it in as clear and as lucid language as I said it in, but he probably said something like that, and everybody else had to stand down. I mean, who's going to tell him he can't? Nobody. So that's what I believe happened. Again, just my theory. Will we ever know? Probably not. So one bad debate, some said. The defenders of Joe Biden, they say he had one bad debate and he has a health issue. All right, that doesn't erase the lifetime of Joe Biden's public service. Let's find out Joe Biden's public service. Let's find out exactly what his track record. Lay out Joe Biden's entire political track record from start to finish, and mark them by years and time served in each position. Okay, so you want to use ChatGPT, this is what you use it for. So we're going to get Joe Biden's political track record. So the point again is, one bad debate and a health issue do not erase a lifetime of public service. That's what people said. And my answer to that is, what the hell does that have to do with what we're talking about? This is kind of like, y'all saw the movie Friday. Remember in the movie Friday when Smokey, who was played by Chris Tucker, he's selling marijuana, and his supplier, who is Big Worm, comes around, and Big Worm is like, hey, you got my money. You owe me $200 for the pharmaceuticals that I fronted to you. And Smokey starts counting out the money. He only had $100, and he owed Worm another $100. And Big Worm was like, yo, what's going on? And Smokey said, well, you know what happened? Craig got fired from his job yesterday. Craig is Ice Cube. And Big Worm says, this is the same point that I'm making here in response to this, a lifetime of service by Joe Biden. What the fuck that got to do with me? All right, what the fuck does Joe Biden's lifetime of service got to do with the cover up of what happened in 2024? Absolutely, the answer is absolutely nothing. It has nothing to do with it. But let's look at Joe Biden's political career. All right, 1970 to 1972, he was a councilman in the Newcastle County. This is Delaware. So it began at the local level in Delaware. 1970, that's when Joe Biden got into politics. So he's been in politics longer than most people have been alive. And so it's 2025 now. So what are we talking? 30, 40, 55 years. 54. He's out now. But I mean, technically, he was president in 2025. So, yeah, 55 years. So in 1973, he became a senator from Delaware. He was elected at age 29, which is very young to be a senator. One of the youngest individuals to serve in the Senate. And he was on some committees, but he was in the Senate for, 36 years? 36 years he was in the Senate. 1973 to 2009. So Joe Biden won a lot of elections from 1973 to 2009. I don't even know how many elections he had to win, but he kept winning. And he was actually an adjunct professor at the Widener University School of Law from 1991 to 2008. He would teach some classes. So in 1988, he ran for president. His campaign ended amid plagiarism allegations. So Joe Biden was basically stealing other people's content and publishing it as his own. And that's why he didn't run in 2008. That failed. In 2008, did I say 2008? 1988. Excuse me. That was his first campaign. In 2008, he was going to run for president again, but he withdrew after the early primaries because he wasn't going to be able to keep up. And then later, he got selected to go work for the guy who was beating him, which was Barack Obama. So he became Barack Obama's vice president, running mate and vice president for those 2 terms. Joe Biden was actually trying to run for president in 2008. I didn't even know. I didn't know about that. Then in 2020, he ran and he actually became the president. So then we know the vice presidency from 2009 to 2017. Then he was a private citizen. So actually from 2017 to 2019, he was not in politics. He was quiet. So after Obama's term ended, and while Trump is president, before he decided to run for that 3-year run, 17, 18, 19, Joe Biden was quietly just a private citizen doing nothing. And that's when he should have retired, and probably when he found out he had cancer. But he goes and decides to run for president in 2019. He becomes president. He has a presidency from 2021 to 2025. So that is Joe Biden's career in politics. 55 years spanning. So some say one bad debate and a health issue do not erase this lifetime of public service. My answer is you're correct. It does not. And what I'm saying is this cover-up has nothing to do with his lifetime of public service. The cover-up is the cover-up. The cover-up is the issue. It's not, oh, well, he did all these other good things, so let's ignore the bad thing. No, he did this, so he has to be addressed for this. And you're going to hear these appeal to emotion fallacies thrown out by people ad nauseum over the next several weeks, or between now and whenever Joe Biden passes away, which may be soon, unfortunately, you're going to hear this over and over again, these appeal to emotion fallacies. Well, he gave this lifetime of service and he did this and that one bad debate. And this doesn't supersede all the great things that he did for the public. Nobody's saying that it does. I'm not saying that his 55 years of work in politics is erased based on this cover up. I'm saying that he has the 55 years of work in politics and he has the cover up. It's not either or, it's and. Yes, he did that. Yes, he did that. And yes, this is also true. Both are true. It's not an either or thing. That's a false binary, and people are trying to make it seem like one thing erases the other thing. Nothing erases anything. Everything's on the record. Next. And by the way, Joe Biden is working for us. So everything's on the record. You can't just tell us what we can talk about, what we can't, when he was working for us as American citizens. Next, media outlets that once mocked concerns as conspiracy theories, now they suddenly admit the decline was real, and they quietly slip in the cancer as a retroactive excuse. This is what's going to happen right now. I want y'all to really understand this. So let me say it one more time and let's explain it. All the media outlets, most of them on the political left, CNN, looking at you, New York Times, looking at you, and a bunch of people on social media who used to work mainstream but are now independent. So you got the Joy Reids, you got your Don Lemons, you got MSNBC looking at you as well. You got the Rachel Maddows over there. All these folks, all these media folks, they often call things conspiracy theories, right? Isn't that their new thing? Everything's a conspiracy theory. So this is what I believe it was Mr. Jeffries, Hakeem Jeffries. He came out and he was talking about as a conspiracy theory that they knew about the cancer before. That's what his official statement was that it's a conspiracy theory that people knew that Joe Biden had cancer before 48 hours ago. That's what he's saying. And conspiracy theory is this term that is about to lose its value completely simply because people keep using it to basically undermine any content, statement, or idea that they disagree with. So they call it a conspiracy theory to poison the well and make it seem as if anything that is related to that idea you shouldn't listen to because it's a conspiracy theory. How about we just take out the word conspiracy and just call it what it is, which is a theory? It's just a theory. What makes it a conspiracy? Can anybody clarify for me? What is the difference between a conspiracy theory and a regular theory? Somebody give me an answer. What's the difference? As far as I'm concerned, only difference between a conspiracy theory and a regular theory is that you really don't want people to say it. If you really don't want people to say something, then you'll call it a conspiracy theory. But if you believe rather that it's something worth discussing, doesn't mean it's true. We don't know yet. We'll just call it a theory. Again, I've labeled a couple of things that I've said here today as theories. But what makes them conspiracies? What's the difference? Can anybody tell me? We don't know. We call things get called a conspiracy theory as a pejorative in order to poison the well of the source. So you hear people say these right-wing conspiracy theories or far-right conspiracy theories. You hear that before? That's a pejorative. And a pejorative is just a term that is used to try to make something look bad. But if you just call it a theory, now it means you got to play with it. Now you got to deal with it. Now you got to have a conversation. But if you call it a conspiracy theory, now I don't even have to address it because it's clearly a conspiracy theory. So there must be there's no credence to it whatsoever. There's nothing useful about it. So we don't even have to talk about it because it's a conspiracy theory. You see, if it was a regular theory, now you got to talk about it. And talking about it will probably expose you if you're lying. And that's the reason why they call things conspiracy theories. So be very careful anytime you hear somebody labeling something as a conspiracy theory, because all they're really trying to do is preclude themselves from having to engage with the content so that they can just blanket dismiss the material and never have to address it. And all of you be careful calling things conspiracy theories just because you hear something that makes you uncomfortable. Just because it makes you uncomfortable does not mean that it's not true. And you should go into it and find out if it's true or not by thinking and listening to different sources and then forming your own conclusions. But don't call something conspiracy theory just because you don't like what you're hearing. All right, that's childish. And this is what the media outlets have been doing for years when it comes to anything involving either Joe Biden or Donald Trump, depending on what angle is being taken in the conversation. So now what is going to happen is that these media outlets are going to take the cancer diagnosis. This is a gift to them. The cancer diagnosis of Joe Biden is actually good for media outlets on the political left and politicians on the political left and citizens on the political left. Why? Because now they can use the cancer diagnosis as an explanation for all the things that were obvious to all of us for the last 4 years with Joe Biden. Oh, well, he had cancer the whole time. No wonder he was mentally declined. No wonder he was falling apart. No wonder he couldn't finish a sentence. No wonder he couldn't walk off the stage at that event he was with Barack Obama. He didn't know where he was at. No wonder he had cancer the entire time. So now it all makes sense. Bullshit. Why didn't they say this guy's clearly declining, even if we didn't know he had cancer, even if we didn't have the the diagnosis of cancer now? Why did they just not admit this guy's clearly slipping? Why didn't they just say that? They didn't do it because they were defending him and protecting him the entire time. They were protecting a lie the entire time. And now this cancer diagnosis is a retroactive excuse that they also are going to use as an appeal to emotion and an appeal to pity. Be very careful. This is what they're going to do. They're going to use this as an appeal to pity to get you to stop talking about it. That's what they're going to say. And they've already come out with these statements that media outlets and people who talk about politics shouldn't talk about Joe Biden at this time because he has a cancer diagnosis and this is a rough time for his family. Fuck that. He was the president of the country. And if you lied to us and now we found out that you lied, the fact that you have cancer right now does not erase the fact that you lied. And us and me and anyone else and Megyn Kelly and Jake Tapper and whoever else talking about this does not do anything to hurt Joe Biden's situation. It doesn't make the cancer advance any faster or slower. That is a complete fallacy. That's the reason why it's a fallacy. Oh, don't talk about it because he's going through a rough time. What the hell does me talking about it do to his diagnosis? Answer is absolutely nothing. Me not talking about it is not going to make the cancer disappear, and me talking about it isn't going to make it advance any further. So why not talk about it? Why? There's no logical answer to that question, so I'm not even waiting for an answer. So media decisions, we already know how the media works, is often reactive and not always based in malice. Some say they simply report what they're told, the media outlets. Is this true? On some levels, of course, it's true. The media reports what they're told. So if you work at the White House and the White House tells you something, you pretty much got to report what they told you. I mean, you can only go off of what they say. Now, if you're a journalist, you go a step further than reporting. A reporter just reports what they see and what they're told. A journalist looks at what they see and what they're told, and then they try to dive into what's actually happening here, which might be more than meets the eye, might be more than what I was told. So a journalist's job is to go deeper and find out, okay, what actually makes sense here. And again, this is why I'm giving you the example. Megyn Kelly show, she did a good job of this yesterday. She does a good job of it every day, most of the time. And she did a good job of it yesterday. So they said he has a cancer diagnosis we just found out 2 days ago. Being that she's not a reporter, but a journalist, she said, okay, let's find out. So she called the doctor, had him on the show, and asked, does this make sense? And the doctor said, no, this does not make sense. That's journalism. You go find out. You take what you're told and you ask yourself, does this make sense? You go get a second and third opinion. You get a second and third set of eyes on it. And then you try to piece together what is actually true based on all the information that you have gathered. And then once you get a complete idea, then you present it to your people. All right, that's what a journalist does. And there's not too many people doing this these days. That's the reason why journalism is on life support. And especially when it comes to anything that involves Donald Trump, either him or his opposition, people don't want to get to the truth because the truth may be inconvenient enough that either makes Donald Trump look good, quote unquote, so they don't want to do that, or anything that makes the opponent look bad, such as this Joe Biden situation, so they don't want to do that. This is the reason why we can't trust the media anymore. This is the reason why the term fake news has become real, because the media outlets don't do their job anymore. They're not telling us the truth. They're telling us what they want us to know, what's not necessarily the truth. That's why we can't trust them. This is the reason why we're in an information war, ladies and gentlemen, because no one is telling you a direct truth in the mainstream media these days, because their entire job is to get you to lean one way or another, rather than just telling you what is true and letting you decide which way you want to lean. They're trying to make you lean instead of letting you decide to lean. In other words, they are not respecting your intelligence and respecting your ability to think for yourself. So they're basically telling you what to think rather than allowing you to think on your own. That's the problem and the reason why we're in an information war, and that war is not ending. So do media outlets often repeat what they're told? Yes, depending on who told them and depending on what they said. So a media outlet will repeat what they're told if they like what they hear and they like the person who said it. And if they don't like it, they do the exact opposite. They don't repeat what they're told. They say the opposite of what they're told because they want to make the other side look bad. So staffers and Democrats now claiming concern were the same ones who were pushing for Biden to run for re-election, same people hiding his illness, and the same people silencing all dissent. These are the same people, same mofos you're going to hear this week talking about all these this concern that we should have for Joe Biden in this trying time for him and his family. These are the same people who are saying Joe Biden should run for re-election, that he's still mentally sharp, that there's nothing wrong with him, he can win again. Now, why were they saying this? They were saying this because Joe Biden said, I'm not stepping down, so y'all either can get behind me or you get out the way. They really didn't have a choice. If they wanted to keep it real, they should have been saying, Joe Biden should not run for re-election. He should step down. He was a transitional president. Let's let the next wave of people come up. So whether that was Kamala, Shapiro, Whitmer, Newsom, whoever else is going to run, Buttigieg, let's let all of these people get in. If it's going to be Michelle Obama, not anymore after that podcast, but if it's going to be any one of them, let's let the new wave come up and go against Trump, and let's just let's turn the page in the Democratic Party. They failed, and now they got to deal with another 4 years of Trump. And now you got this state of flux in the Democratic Party. Who's the nominee for 2028? Who's the strongest Democrat candidate for 2028? All right, don't say Kamala Harris. All right, that's a joke. Who's the strongest candidate for 2028 for the Democratic Party? I don't know. Who is it? I don't know. Because they let Joe Biden stay a little bit too late at the party, now grandpa got to get carried home, and now you're in this situation. Democrats did this to themselves. They did this to themselves. I believe, had they done a proper primary and Joe Biden had properly stepped down when he was supposed to, and they did a full primary the way they were supposed to, a candidate who made it through that gauntlet possibly could have beat Donald Trump in 2024. And there'd be no more Donald Trump, because I doubt he'd run again in 2028. I think it would have been it. That would have been it for Trump. Had they had a proper candidate, that proper candidate could have won. Kamala was not going to win. Kamala was not a good candidate. She wasn't going to win. Joe Biden, after that debate, he wasn't going to win. I don't think he would have won, even if he didn't fall all over himself during that debate. I still think he would have lost. Neither Kamala nor Biden was a good candidate for 2024 for the Democrats. They didn't have anyone with big enough balls to get Joe Biden the hell out the way early, which would have eliminated Kamala by would have easily eliminated Kamala because she would have had to go through a full primary. She wouldn't have won that primary. And then because nobody had the balls to do it, they kept with Biden. Then he fell all over himself during that debate, and it was obvious they had to drop Biden. They didn't have enough time to have a full primary, so they had to go with Kamala. Kamala was a good candidate, and she ended up getting trounced in the general election. And that's how we ended up where we are. That's how it happened. Democrats did this to themselves, so there's no need to feel bad for them. Anyway, changing stances over time. If someone says, well, Biden is good in May of 2024, and now they're saying Biden is bad in May of 2025, that doesn't necessarily mean that the person is a hypocrite. Not necessarily, because if things change, your perspective will change. If you get new information, you may have a new opinion on a subject. I encourage people to be that way. So just because someone changes their stance does not necessarily mean that they're a hypocrite. Some say that it reflects updated facts and evolving perspectives. That I would generally agree with, but we have to put that into context. In proper context, we have to look at what we all could see that was on national television, international television, Joe Biden clearly looking like he was not all there mentally anymore. And then the TV networks telling us, do not believe your lying eyes. He is still in good shape. He's still doing well. He just had a bad day. He just had a moment. And hey, don't look at Joe Biden. Look at Donald Trump. Look at how Donald Trump is out of shape. And how he has a beer gut, and he plays golf all the time. Let's pay attention to that. Let's ignore the thing that you just saw on TV. See, that's nonsense. That's not just getting new information. They already had the information. We had the information. I'm looking at it. I'm just waiting for you, Rachel Maddow and Jake Tapper and Don Lemon and was it Chris Cuomo or Andrew Cuomo? Which one of them was on TV? One of them was the governor and one of them was on TV. I think Andrew was on TV. Whichever one of them. It doesn't matter. The Cuomo brothers, those two cats. Well, I just want you to tell me what I just saw on TV. I just want you to confirm it because you're sitting there behind that desk and you have this platform that you're on. I just want you to confirm what I just saw on TV. That's all I'm looking for. That's just what I'm trying to figure out. So this coordinated, sharp as ever narrative about Joe Biden. Remember this whole sharp as narrative, cogent. He's very cogent. That narrative is now being reframed as, oh, he was battling illness. All right, this is lying. They're lying. This is just straight up lying. See, people talk about misinformation and disinformation. There's no such thing. It's either you're telling the truth or you're lying or you just don't have the information. It's one of the three. There's no misinformation. All right. Misinformation is when you're giving out something that's not true on purpose. So that means either you just don't know and you're talking about it, which is people are free to do that. You're free to be ignorant of a subject and talk about it anyway. All right. Social media is designed for people to talk about stuff regardless of how much information they have and say whatever they want to say. It's a space for opinions. Or you know the truth and you're misrepresenting it. That means you're lying. When you misrepresent a truth and you know that you're misrepresenting the truth, you're not giving misinformation. You are lying. That's it. These people are lying. So the people who are saying he was sharp as ever, and they can clearly see, they're looking at the same thing that we're looking at. All right, this guy's not sharp as ever. They're lying. Look at Joe Biden in 2009 when he was VP to Obama. Look at him now. All right, he's as sharp as ever? Really? Him in that debate in July of 2024. Look at that guy. Compare that to Joe Biden when he was VP for Barack Obama. Is that the same guy? The answer is hell no. Now, let's be clear. All of us, hopefully, we live long enough to even get to the stage where Joe Biden is at. Everyone eventually loses your sharpness because Father Time is undefeated, as they said. This applies to men, women, rich, poor, white, black, doesn't matter. It applies to everybody. If we live long enough, we will all get to the point where Joe Biden is, where maybe we're not as sharp as we used to be. It happens to everyone. I'm not saying that makes him, it doesn't make him a bad person because it happens to everybody. That would make all of us bad. But was he as sharp as ever in 2024? The answer was hell no. This guy's not the same guy, and everybody knows it. So this whole thing of, oh, he was battling illness now that you've been given this gift of a cancer diagnosis is bullshit. It's revisionist history is what it is. Moving on. Some would say, leadership is more than sharpness or health. And Joe Biden relied on a strong team, and that's part of effective governance. This was the Kamala frame that she used when she was running for president. What are you going to do when you're president and you don't have experience doing A, B, C, D, E, F? And her response was, well, every leader has a great team, and I'm going to have this team of these people who I can call on and go to, and I'm not going to be like Donald Trump, who just thinks he knows everything, et cetera, et cetera. And that sounds good. That's a good corporate response to a question like that. Kamala's answer was extremely corporate. And when you work in corporate, that's the kind of answer that you give. So she aced the test of giving the corporate answer. The problem is that's not what people want. Human nature is not constituted in that way. Now I'm gonna give y'all a life lesson here that all of you need to understand, especially those of you who have ambitions of advancing into leadership positions. When someone is chosen for a leadership position, people want you to fucking lead. They want you to lead, not your team. You. They want you to lead. That does not mean that you don't have a team. It doesn't mean that you don't listen to your team. It doesn't mean that you cannot defer to others who have more expertise on a subject than you when a tough question needs to be answered. Doesn't mean you can't do those things. However, the bottom line is you are the front person and people are looking at you to be the leader, and you need to play that role. Even if you got your information from him over there or her over there or these people over there, they're the surrogates. When it's time for a leadership decision to be made and the final call to be made, we want to see you on the front line, standing in front of everybody and saying, this is what we're doing and this is where we're at. That's what a leader does. Kamala's position of, well, I'm going to have a strong team and I'll call this person and that person, she shouldn't have said that. That was bad for her campaign because it made her look like a weak leader. And if y'all need to understand the optics of this is the way it works. This is the optics of leadership, is that you have to stand on the front line and you say, this is where we're at and this is what we're doing, even though you got your material and you sourced knowledge from these 50 people back here. We don't want to hear from them. We want to hear from you because we elected you. Donald Trump understands this in his bones. That's why Donald Trump takes all the arrows for everything that happens in his administration. Even if he had nothing to do with it, he stands there, he takes the arrows because he understands this is how leadership works. This is human nature, folks. When someone is a leader, we expect them to lead. We don't want to hear you talking about leading by committee. You ever hear Donald Trump talking about that? You ever hear Donald Trump say, I got a strong team and I got these people, I'll lean on this person, that person. He gives them credit. He points them out. He says, hey, this person's doing great and Tulsi's doing that and RFK's doing this and Elon's doing this and Pete's doing that and these people are doing a great job. He points out that they're doing a great job, but be clear, who gave him the job? He did. He's making it clear, yeah, you're doing a great job that I gave you. And he understands that very well. And this is one of the reasons why he has the audience that he has and he has the followers that he has, is because Donald Trump understands leadership and he understands the optics of leadership. It's not just about what you're doing behind closed doors. It's also what you do out in the open when the cameras are on, is that you need to assume a position of strength in leadership, which is everything starts with me and everything stops with me. So this whole concept around Joe Biden is that, well, he had a strong team and part of effective governance, he was leaning on his team. Well, what the fuck did we elect you for if we're leaning on the team? Let's elect the team. All right, who's the team? I want to know who's making the final decision here. If it ain't you, I want to know who that is, and let's put that person in charge. This is the way human nature works, folks. This is not a political conversation. This is human nature. Anyone put in charge, we want to hear you. We want to hear what you have to say. Even if the mistake was not made by you, even if the good thing happened and you ain't really the person who made it happen, we still want to hear from you. Why? Because we elected you. You're the person we put in charge. Stand up there and take it. Stand up there and take the credit. Stand up there and take the blame. But you got to stand up there. When he stopped standing up there, we no longer respected his leadership. And when Kamala in her campaign said, well, I'm going to have a strong team and all these questions that I can't answer, this is what they would say. Because they would ask Trump a question. Let me back up. They would ask Kamala a question. What about this thing? You don't have experience in this, and you may not know much about this, or you don't have a track record on that. What are you going to do? And she would say, well, I'm going to go to my team. I'll defer to my team on those things. When they asked Donald Trump the same question, you know what Donald Trump said? He said, I'll figure it out. I'm going to solve the problem. Yeah, I have people over here and I got some people over there. I got these people I can call and they give me some feedback, but the final decision is going to be made by me. He didn't say it in so many words, but he made it very clear that's how he operates. It's how a leader is supposed to operate. And if you can't do that, you ain't fit to lead. There's a reason why we haven't had a female president yet. We had 2 tries and 2 fails, Hillary and Kamala, because the woman's natural state or natural default is to say, well, if I don't know something, I'll defer to my team and let the team figure it out. And it can be a collaborative effort. Kamala used that term a couple of times. People don't want to hear that when they're electing a leader. So ladies, any of you thinking about running for president, take notes, take heed to what I'm telling you right here. When we're electing a leader, we don't want to hear that shit. I want to hear that you're going to go to the group and you're going to let the group help you decide what to do. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear that you are going to decide what to do because you're the one that I'm choosing to be in charge. And if you ain't ready to do that, then you ain't going to get chosen. And it's the reason why men tend to be in leadership positions, for this reason alone, right here. There are many other reasons, but this is one really good one. Let's continue. A couple more points, then we'll get to the questions. Voters were misled deliberately. We already know this. Not just by omission, but through denial, distraction, and attacking critics of the Joe Biden condition. We already know this, but I will give a little bit. I'm gonna throw a little bit of cold water on this point, simply because I think a lot of people who voted for Joe Biden in 2020, at least those who were kind of on the fence, there are a bunch of people who are always going to vote Democrat and a bunch who are always going to vote Republican, regardless of who the candidate is. But the people who are on the fence and could have went either way, I think so many people were so swayed to get Donald Trump out by any means necessary. We're going to vote for Biden no matter what. They would have voted for the proverbial ham sandwich. Didn't matter who the candidate was. As long as it wasn't Trump, they were going to vote for that person. There are plenty of people I know, and they would say, well, who are you going to vote for? Well, not Trump. Whoever's not Trump, that's who I'm voting for. There are a bunch of people who had that mentality in 2020. So is it so much that voters are misled? Somewhat, but not really, because I think a lot of people are just going to vote against Trump no matter who the candidate was. Didn't matter. So the GOP, they say, has its own history of covering for flawed leaders, so both sides bear blame in selective transparency. They say bullshit, whataboutism, don't look over here, look over there. That's bullshit. This one is more important. The GOP does it too. So this is a both sides fallacy. Okay, so our side just got caught doing something, but hey, look, the other side, they did something bad too. No, miss me with this nonsense. Next. These revelations and a conveniently timed cancer diagnosis undermine the credibility of media and government institutions. They don't have any credibility. So I actually reject this point. The media does not have any credibility these days. There is no credibility to the mainstream media. They have none. They sold it all. And the only credibility they have now is throwing talking points that allow people like myself and yourselves to talk about it. And all we do is take the bullshit that they say, and then we hold that bullshit up to the light and call it out for being bullshit. That's what they are supplying us these days. That's how social media works. So the more material that's out there, people talk about the material, whether they agree with it or disagree with it, people talk about it. And that's how social media makes their money. So social media loves this. They love when people throw bullshit out there that gets people excited in a positive or a negative way, because then we go talk about it. And that keeps people on the apps. And the more time you spend on the app, the more money the social media apps make. Y'all didn't know their business model. That's pretty much how it works. So these revelations and the conveniently timed cancer diagnosis, already just said that. Many Americans prioritize results over optics. They care more about what got done than what was hidden. This is completely false. This is 100% false. Human beings prefer optics over results. If all we cared about were results, then there'd be a lot of things different in life. The only place in life where everything comes down to results, or the closest you'll get to it, is playing sports. Everywhere else in life, it is all about the optics. It is all about the relationships. It's all about the politics, the lowercase p politics. That's all about that in life. It is nowhere in life is it all about results. And people talk about Joe Biden, or look at the results that he got as president. Well, here's the tricky thing about presidents taking credit for results is that the previous president, if it was of the opposite party, always says, well, they were able to succeed because I set them up to succeed. But then if the president fails on things, they say, oh, well, they failed because they failed. All right, so it's just this convenient, whichever one is convenient for you, you take it. Barack Obama said, well, Donald Trump had this thriving economy during his first term. And Obama said, well, that was my economy. That's the reason why it thrived. But if the economy fails, then Joe Biden's not going to say, well, that was my economy that Donald Trump failed. No, it was his economy. He messed up. When he messed up, it was because of him. But if he succeeds, it's because of me. All right, this is what politicians do. This is the entire game of politics, by the way. Any of you who didn't know, this is the way that it works. Those of you who are watching on TikTok, stop asking to come in my live. You're not coming in. So Biden's decline and illness were treated like state secrets. Now those involved are rewriting history to soften accountability. Again, this is the way it works. This is the way media works. All right, this is the entire game of media. Let's rewrite history and make it sound different than what it actually was. And these days, the beautiful thing about rewriting history is that everybody has access to rewrite history. Any one of us can rewrite history. Any one of you can write a book today and it'll be available on Amazon tomorrow. So it's not like this is gate kept, or you gotta get through something or go jump some hurdles in order to write history. You can write history anytime you feel like it. You can start a live stream. You can make social media posts. You can write a damn book. You can do whatever you want these days, and anyone can do it. That's what makes it interesting on some levels and annoying on other levels, depending on what you're focused on. So some argue that his cancer narrative is being used to boost book sales and frame Biden in a more sympathetic way. I say, of course it is. Why not? If I was part of the Biden team, I would start writing a book right now to make him look sympathetic, like a sympathetic figure, and I would want to sell more books. All right, people don't write books just to write the book. You write the book so people buy it. You want people to buy it so you can make money. That's the business of publishing books. The book business is about selling books. All right, same way the TV business is about getting eyeballs, and the food business is about selling food. Of course you want to sell. So there's nothing wrong with somebody trying to sell their thing. Just because you disagree with somebody and they happen to be selling something does not mean that what they're selling is a lie, nor does it mean that they're just trying to sell something. So what? They're just trying to sell something. Everybody listening to this is selling something. All right, any of you who makes money, you're selling something. All right, you can't make money if you ain't selling nothing. If you got a job, you're selling something. You're selling yourself as an employee. If you're an entrepreneur, you're selling something. So this whole bullshit frame of someone is just trying to sell as if that means what they're doing is disingenuous or wrong is it logically makes no sense. It's a childish dodge. And again, there's no one who's listening to this who's not selling anything. Everybody's selling something. You're either doing a good job of it or a bad job of it, but everybody is selling something. Even if you're a stay-at-home mom, you're selling something. You're selling your ability to be a stay-at-home mom, because if you fail at that job, you might not have it anymore. All right, so everybody's selling something. So I don't like this idea, and I wish people would stop using this frame as if they're making a point when they're really not. So the public deserves to know who enabled a leader who may have been both mentally and physically unfit to lead, and why they're still being protected, which is what we're discussing here. And last point, focusing too much on Biden's health could derail more pressing debates about policy leadership in the future. So here's that bullshit relative privacy, not privacy, but relative, what was that term that I use? This new term that I found today. This is a new logical fallacy that I found out today. It is called relative privation. Relative privation. What is the more important thing that you should be paying attention to instead of the thing that you are paying attention to? People use that. Again, let's not talk about Joe Biden. Let's talk about how terrible Donald Trump is. That's called relative privation. That's a logical fallacy. When people say, don't look at this, look at that instead. And by the way, everybody uses that at different times. Doesn't mean you can't use it. Just means it's a logical fallacy. So the better you get at pointing these out, the better you'll be at noticing the logical flaws in the arguments of most human beings, especially on subjects upon which they are not mentally, but emotionally triggered. So now we're going to get to the, wait for this to clear. We're going to get to the Q&A section in 1 minute. All right, here we go. All right, let me get my timer set. We have about 50 minutes here for that. I need to take a bathroom break real quick. Let me run to the restroom. Let me see what I can, I think I need to stick to the safety of just letting you listen to a little bit of my own show just to make sure I don't mess myself up by playing. I.e., the child when they were born or a mother when she was giving birth was another reason why, not for nothing. Here's the dread, and they were basically telling me, the nurses and the doctor, all right. This is just our normal. Restroom break. It's going to take me 90 seconds. I'll be right back. Then we're going to get the questions. Give me 90 seconds. I'll be right back. I'm not doing all this. And I got my midwife on the phone, and she said, get them to write down every single thing they want to do. And we got the doctor to write everything down. It's like 11 things she wanted to do. Literally 11 different things she wanted to do to my child who was just born that day. And I read them all to the midwife, and the midwife said, only let her do number 6 and number 10. Only let her do 2 of these things. Midwife warned me. She said, Dre, if she does some of these other things on here, the law says that the baby has to stay in the hospital in the neonatal intensive care unit for 10 days to be monitored after they do this thing. So make sure they only do the things that I'm telling you. She didn't say it that way, but I got the message and I told them, you can only do these things. You can't do anything else. Ended up getting my child out of the hospital within 24 hours. Even that was like tooth and nail fight and having to cuss people out and having security called with me in the middle of Jackson Hospital in Miami, Florida, because they want to go through their thing. Here's the point. Had I not known what I knew, based on the information I got from this person who knows the medical space but is not part of the system, I would have been subjected to whatever they wanted to do if my child would have been in the hospital for 10 fucking days for some shit that they didn't even need. And my son is very healthy and very alive and very active and didn't get any of that intervention bullshit that the medical industry pushes on people, especially when you're in a vulnerable state, i.e. the child when they are born or a mother when she is giving birth. This is another reason why, not nothing. So, you heard a little bit of that yesterday. That is from episode number, I can't see the number. This is from my podcast that comes out every single day. You can find it for free on Apple or Spotify. It is called Work on Your Game. It's episode number 3288. You must know people in each one of these spaces. So I'm basically laying out different spaces in life in which you should know somebody who knows something outside of yourself, just in case you need some help in that particular area. So I was just giving you some context in that little section of the episode. But you can find that again on Apple or Spotify. That show comes out every single day. It is called Work on Your Game. Let me show you what it looks like so it's easy for you to find it. So the artwork looks like that. It's called Work on Your Game. You can find it on Apple or Spotify. So let's get to the comments. And questions. Fit Business 7 over on YouTube said, what part of Philly you're from? North or South? Why don't link with Wallow and get back to Philly? Well, first of all, I'm from Mount Airy, which is the northwest part of Philly. It's right next to Germantown, for those of you who know Philadelphia. And secondly, I don't live in Philadelphia. I live in South Florida. And third, link with Wallow and give back to Philly. This concept of giving back, you mean just give. I don't know what you mean by giving back. What did Philly give to me that I got to give back? Do I owe them something? And I get what you're saying, but this whole concept people say about giving back is fallacious because they didn't give me something that I owe them anything back. Now, giving is fine. I'm giving right now, but I'm giving to the whole world. It doesn't have to be Philly. And secondly, link with Wallow. What can linking with Wallow? Well, Wallow probably has an audience. He got some people listening to him, but other than that, I don't see he and I as very much aligned. As far as business goes, he's not, all due respect, he's not quite on my level. Business wise, I mean, he's got his media platform and the things that he's doing. But as far as what he could actually offer, align with what I offer, we're not the same. All due respect to him and what he's doing, but we ain't got the same audience. Let's put it that way. NL Reading Neas over on Facebook. You put the same link in there more than once. NL Reading, you ain't got to do that. Over on Instagram, then we'll come to TikTok. I don't think I saw anything on Instagram today. Okay, I think it's quiet on Instagram. All right, TikTok, what you got? I'm scrolling up to the top here. So I'm reading comments from the top. So if I'm not replying to your comment as soon as you post it, there's a reason. Because I'm reading from the top. Oh, I keep forgetting about these likes. Can you all tap the screen? I got to remember to tell people to start tapping the screen at the beginning. When I did that, we got more likes. So we're at 39,000, folks. Can we get to 50,000 likes, please? We're at 39,000 likes on TikTok. Can you please tap the screen and we get to 50,000 likes, please? So John Silva said the Dems made it impossible for RFK to get elected. Yes, that's what I heard. Pretty in Pink and Green said, guess a felon was better. Okay, so you just did it. I just pointed this out. It's not actually a straw man. This is the relative privation thing that you did there. It's actually kind of a straw man too. So Pretty in Pink and Green, 50. You get the straw man of the day. You're on the second comment that I read. Straw man of the day. Pretty in Pink and Green, 50. Gets the straw man of the day for their comment about a felon was better. Well, you should ask the entire country. Don't ask me. So Margaret said, there is none but God. Amen. Sim K said, so it's the Democrats' fault. Y'all vote for Trump. Here is straw man number 2 of the day. Here we go. Sim K, straw man number 2 of the day. It's the Democrats' fault. Y'all vote for Trump. You be careful when you start a sentence with the word so in a disagreement, because often what follows is a straw man. That's a tell for the straw man is the so. Jackson said, talk about the current president. Again, why are people asking about the current president? This whole conversation is about Joe Biden, not Donald Trump. Black said he's an old man. What should we have expect? About what? What does being an old man have to do with covering up a cancer diagnosis that you may have had for several years? What does that have to do with being old? Answer is nothing. Carla said, if you believe the felony hoax. Sim K said, talk about stage 9 prostate. Why? That's not really the topic. The topic is not the specificities of stage 9 prostate cancer. The topic is about the cover up about Joe Biden's clear decline. NL Reed said, remember when Biden accidentally said he had cancer on stage? You let it slip, the Dems covered it up? No, I don't remember that. So the Dems covered it up so well that I didn't even see it. Josh said cogent. Yeah, cogent. That was what, I think it was the Cuomo, whichever one of them it was on TV. He kept saying it. Jackson said, why are y'all so obsessed with JB, though? Here's another straw man. This is an appeal to emotion as well. He's not doing anything for America. Focus on Trump. So this is an appeal to emotion. And this is the also kind of an appeal to ridicule, is when anybody is talking about a topic and someone doesn't want you talking about the topic, what they'll say is, why are you obsessed with the topic? I'm obsessed. We are obsessed by talking about the fucking president of the United States of America. How is that obsession? Then you said, focus on Trump. So Jackson, why are you obsessed with Donald Trump? You see how that works? So if I'm obsessed, or we're obsessed with Joe Biden by talking about the fucking president, then that means you're obsessed with Trump by talking about the president. How is it? What makes it an obsession? I don't understand why people, actually I do understand, but I'm being facetious when I say I don't understand why people use these terms obsessed. They do this as a pejoratively to make it seem like you're doing something wrong by focusing on something that they don't want you to focus on. So they call it obsession. So all of you should be careful with that one as well, because people use this against you all the time. They see you focusing on something they want you to stop looking at, so they call it obsession to make it seem like you're doing something wrong. When if instead you were focusing on something that they wanted you to focus on, they wouldn't call it obsession then. So be careful. If you can't apply the same thing in the opposite way, then you're probably using a logical fallacy, because it would ping your emotions in a negative way. GG Jen said, I think he meant cognizant. No, I did not mean cognizant. It was cogent. The word that Cuomo kept using was cogent. Let's see if I can find when he kept saying it. The word he used was cogent. So the word he said, and cogent means appealing to the intellect or powers of reasoning or convincing, compelling in a physical sense, also powerful. So that's what they meant by cogent. I believe it was Cuomo who was saying this about Biden. Let me see if I can find it. Maybe it was somebody else. No, it was actually, I think it was Joe Scarborough. That's who I think it was. Let me see if I can find it. I think it was Joe Scarborough. So y'all know Mika and Joe. Donald Trump often referred to him as Crying Joe. He would call him Crying Joe in his social media posts. Let me see if I can find it on this page. I believe it was one of these guys from New York, because he had a very strong New York accent. Yes. So it was Joe Scarborough. So here's what Joe Scarborough said. He said, and this is a quote, I've said it for years now, he's cogent, but I undersold it when I said he was cogent. He's far beyond cogent. In fact, I think he's better than he's ever been intellectually, analytically, because he's been around for 50 years. He said this in March, I believe, of 2024. Yes, Joe Scarborough said this. He did not see Biden mental decline in White House meetings. So it wasn't Cuomo, it was Joe Scarborough. So now the word cogent is the word I was referring to, because he said it so many times that it stuck in my mind. Black SXMU said, how do you know if someone's lying? Are you a lie detector? Yes, I'm a lie detector. All humans are lie detectors. So yes, that's how I know. Sam said, who was running the country? It wasn't Biden. Well, it was Biden. It was Jill Biden. Sam, it wasn't Joe Biden. It was Jill Biden. She was running the country. Holy Ghost said, respectfully off topic, where did you get that tie? I got it from a department store. I don't know. I probably got it from Nordstrom. Coffee Time said, Photoshop picture. What picture are you talking about? Patriot Frank said, I love intelligent people. God bless. Me too, Frank. Thank you. Coffee Time said, felons, constant word salad. Why people keep bringing up felonies on this and the conversation is Joe Biden? Joe Biden got a felony? If so, what is it? B. Britt says, they wouldn't have had to say he's sharp as ever. There were no question of his mental. Exactly. I don't hear anybody saying Donald Trump is sharp as ever. Nobody has to say it, because you can see that he's still pretty much the same guy. Sim said, talk about Trump yesterday saying stage 9 cancer. Why? Why do you want me to talk about Trump? Yeah, why are so many of you bringing up Donald Trump? The conversation is Joe Biden. GG said, okay, so they came and said he has cancer, but he still has dementia. I don't know. I didn't hear they say he had dementia, but what he has is old age. All right, so maybe dementia is part of it. Maybe the cancer is part of that. Joe Biden is just an old guy. And again, all of us hopefully live long enough to get as old as Joe Biden is. Maybe we'll be sharper than him at that age, maybe not. But age gets everybody, from what I hear. Parker says, sadly, you can talk all day. Some have no perception or understanding. People lack critical thinking. Well, I'm not trying to make anyone think differently, Parker. We're just discussing the conversation. We're just discussing the topic. My aim when I do these live streams, folks, is not to change anyone's mind. If I happen to change your mind, great. It's like finding money on the street, but I'm not doing this because I'm trying to get you to see things the way I see them. I'm just breaking it down and explaining it. And then I'm having the conversation. But I don't need anybody to agree with me. Holy Ghost 369 say you need that tie. All right, go buy it. Go to the store. I told you, Nordstrom. Jackson said, people say the same about Trump. He clearly can't form a complete sentence. Who, Trump? You got to be joking. Donald Trump does a press conference literally every damn day. Cut it out. So why is, Carla, for some reason, your comment is under like the hidden. I don't know if you did this to yourself. There's a bunch of filtered comments in here. I don't even know why these comments are being filtered. I've seen this a couple times. Why they have these filtered comments. So TikTok just automatically filters some people's comments, and I don't know why it's doing it. So Carla, you have a comment where you said Father Time is undefeated, and it filtered it. I don't know why. Yes, Father Time is undefeated. We say that in sports all the time. That's where I got that from. In sports world, you say it all the time because when an athlete gets old, and in sports, you get old when you're like 30 or 40. They say Father Time's undefeated, and it's very true. Stacy said he was neither sharp nor healthy. Pretty much. Looks like it. Carlos said TikTok is filtering. Yeah, I know TikTok is filtering. I'm just trying to figure out why they're filtering it. And they're automatically doing it. They didn't even ask me. I don't like that they're doing it. TikTok does a lot of they do a lot of auto filtering and auto what's the word? Auto moderating that I don't want them to do. So let's see. Your Vegas move said, "I'll build a wall." Lie. Well, if you took it literally, then you could say it's a lie. But it was actually a directional statement. Build a wall was a metaphor, which was for we're going to enforce our borders and we're not going to just allow people to stream into our country. That's what it was a metaphor for. Now, if you like Trump, then you understood the metaphor. If you don't like Trump, then you took what he said literally, and then you say, "Oh, well, he lied because he didn't do it." That's human nature. Again, it has nothing to do with Donald Trump. Pammy said he wouldn't tap out because he knew he was going to pardon his son and family at the last minute. Now, actually, that's a good point. But he could have pardoned his son and family, while he was still. Well, actually, let me think about that. No, because he could have pardoned him whether he was running or not. Right? If he had won, then he wouldn't have needed to pardon him because they wouldn't have got charged. But even if he had continued to run in 2024, and let's say he goes all the way to the election day and loses, he could still have pardoned him the same way. So I actually don't think so. He could have done the pardon whenever he felt like it. As long as he knows I'm out, okay, let me pardon everybody before I go. Monique Chavez, good morning. Well, heck said, I tried to understand what Kamala was offering. All I got was an opportunity economy, no details. Well, most politicians, they try to not go into details because they don't want to be held accountable for those details. Kamala just didn't do a good job of making it sound smooth. Every politician kind of does that. But good politicians, especially you're running for president, you got to be a smooth enough talker that you can talk around tough questions without it sounding like you're talking around the question. Donald Trump's good at it. Obama had it down. Hillary Clinton was pretty good at it. George W. Bush was good at it. Clinton was good at it. Any president has to be good at that because you don't want to put all your details out there on the public forum because people are going to hold you accountable for them. And the fewer things you're being held accountable for, the more leeway you have. So it's kind of, again, human nature. Monique, good morning. Dog in sunglasses said Trump never takes accountability. Well, accountability from who is the question. I'm sure he takes accountability, just maybe not from the sources from which you want him to take accountability. Carlos said, no one ever described Biden as smart or capable or qualified before TDS came around. Well, again, Carlos, the thing is, people would have elected a ham sandwich as long as it wasn't Donald Trump in 2020. There's a bunch of people who were just of that mindset. Britt says, how does damage occur over years where people think it'll be fixed in a few months? What damage are you talking about? Vegas, you're spamming my comments. You're about to get blocked. Don't spam my comments. Lawrence said he doesn't take any arrows. He always defers. When I say take arrows, I don't mean him standing up there and saying blame me. Taking arrows means he's the one who gets all the attention and all the negative press when something in his administration goes wrong. Whether he owns up and says, hey, that's because of me, or he deflects, he's still taking all of it because it's all coming on him. They're all saying Donald Trump. Something happened with Pete Hegseth, Donald Trump did that. Something happened with RFK, Donald Trump did it. Some people don't like Elon, they bring it back to Donald Trump. They always bring it back to his front door. That's what I mean by that. All right, Vegas move. You got to get blocked now. You spam my comments too much. Now you got to go. Any of you in here wanting me to respond to your comment, post it once, maybe twice. And if I get to it, I get to it. If I don't, it's nothing personal. I can't get to every comment. But don't spam my comments and post the same thing over and over again. And he said, like the J6 followers, what about them? It's a sentence fragment. I don't know what you're referring to. Irma V, good morning. Thank you for the goats. Pammy G said, Trump has done some sketchy things in his personal life, but he's a freaking amazing president. Okay, fair enough. Yo Real said, did you put on a suit to talk on TikTok Live? Well, I am talking on TikTok Live, and I am wearing a suit. I don't think this is the main reason. but you can put those two together if you wish. You're real. You're spamming my comments. You got to go. All right. So, all right. Next, Terra Maga said, "Blaming Trump for everything isn't working. Try something else." Well, they're not going to try anything else. They're going to keep blaming because it works. It draws a lot of attention. Let's see. And he said, "Trump creates a problem, then pretends to fix it." Okay, if that's what you say. Again, why is Donald Trump coming up in these comments so often when the conversation is about Joe Biden? I'm trying to find a comment about Joe Biden. I'm seeing comments about Trump, but I'm not going to keep reading Trump comments. Stacey G said, "Nope, no female needs to be president." Well, as far as we've seen, that's pretty much where we are. And he says, "Oh, men have done a really great job in this country, though, huh?" And she used the rolling eye emoji. Well, Annie, that's a straw man. So first of all, let's give you a round of applause for the straw man. And secondly, this is an appeal to ridicule. And third, the house that you're in right now, the car that you are driving right now, if you have one, the Wi-Fi that you are using, the phone that you are typing these comments on, were all built and maintained by men. All of them. I don't even know where you are. I don't even know what kind of phone you got. I don't even know what kind of car you drive. They were all built by men. They were conceptualized by men. They were built by men. And if a man were to try to break down the door of your house right now and attack you, you would make a phone call to either your brother, a man, your husband, a man, your son, a man, or a police officer, and you would hope that a man showed up. Is there all these things true, Andy? Of course they're true. So yes, men have done a great job in this country because this country exists because of men. Women did not settle the United States of America. Men did. Do you challenge these points? So let's see. William 9225, thanks for the follow. Stacy G, thanks for the follow. Shout out to all the people who started following me. I can't point out all of you, but I see you. And he said, "Do you think presidents always need to be males?" Straw man. That's not what I said. I said all presidents have been males because men naturally have the leadership role. This was given to us by our creators from the very beginning. God put Adam in charge, and he told Eve to support Adam. And as soon as Adam stopped doing his job of leading, Eve got deceived by the snake. Then Adam got deceived by Eve, and all hell broke loose, literally. He said, "The ones that commit 90% of crime and cause all wars." Okay, Annie. And these are also the ones who built the world that you live in and protect your safety. Those same people. So the give and the take, everything has a trade-off. So men commit 90% of crime. Let's just go with that stat. And men have caused all wars. Let's go with that one too. Let's say both of those are true. I say yes. And so what? And the reason that you're protected is because of a man. So what about that? You left that one out of your argument. Let's see, where was I? So Bell said, "We deserve to know who was running America the last 4 years." Well, Bell, you can keep thinking we deserve it. I don't think you're ever going to find out. Well, you should read these books, actually, is what you should do. I think in these books, if you read a couple of these books about the Biden administration, you're going to be able to piece together some idea of what was actually happening. And you're going to have to draw your own conclusion. That's pretty much what's going to happen. So Annie said, "You're not answering comments." Yes, I am. I said this at the beginning. Let me say it one more time for everybody in the comments on TikTok. I'm reading them from the top. So I'm not reading them in the moment that you posted them. I'm reading them from the top. Where y'all think I'm getting these from? You see me looking at the screen, don't you? I'm just reading them from the top, which means I'm not getting them immediately because there's a lot of comments to go through. I'm trying to get to as many comments as I can. Well, Heck said, "In what area did Biden succeed besides bringing down the price of insulin?" I don't know. Ask a Biden supporter. I think we got a few of them in here. Susie said, "See how many female politicians are over emotional about many platforms? AOC, Crockett, Pelosi." Well, this is human nature. This is female nature. Females tends to be more emotional. A man tends to be more logical. Doesn't make a female bad. There are things that females do that are needed, and there are things that men do that are needed. And it doesn't mean that a man can do everything a woman does. It doesn't mean a woman can do everything a man does. Sappy said, "Just joined. Do you think Biden cancer is a lie?" No. Why would somebody lie about having cancer? I don't think so. I don't think he is lying about having cancer. I think he does have cancer. I think that they are using this as a way to draw some sympathy for him and to block people from talking about these books that are coming up. I've already explained that, Sappy, so I know you came in late. So you listen to the replay, you'll catch it. Ruby said that's true. Trump is the best president ever. He is for the people. Well, some people have that opinion. Fair enough. It's Sugar. Good morning to you. Where was I? Fitzgerald said entrepreneurs rule. Yes, they tend to do so. That's true. And he said Trump whines about Taylor Swift like a little kid would. So presidential, LOL. Kamala Harris, which is what he's kind of supposed to do. That's kind of the game of politics. You get in the game, something's going to happen. You get in the ring, you might get hit. That's the way it works. Taylor Swift got in the ring by picking a side, and she got hit. But I wouldn't say, I don't know how you can call that whining. And he won anyway, so what's he whining about? He beat the person that she was endorsing. Highway said, do you think karma finally caught up with that old geezer? I don't know about that. I don't know. I think people throw karma out there when they see something bad happen to a person that they disagree with, but nobody throws out karma when something bad happens to themselves. It's not karma then, but it's only karma when something bad happens to somebody else. So no, I don't really like the karma frame, because people tend to use it very selectively. User said, what books? I just got here. Well, there's a couple books about the Biden administration coming out this week. Let me find out the name of the book that Jake Tapper is going to have, because I need to read that book myself. So the Jake Tapper book is Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson. I believe this is the book. Yes, it's called Original Sin: President Biden's Decline, Its Cover-Up, and His Disastrous Choice to Run Again. Basically what we've just been talking about. So I am going to get this book. How long is this? 8 hours and 51 minutes on audio. I am going to get this book. When does it come out? I don't think is the book out already? I think it's out now. This book comes out on May 20th. Yeah, today. So the book came out today. So Jake Tapper is going to be on Megyn Kelly podcast today. I would suggest all of you listen to it. I'm going to listen to it. I want to hear that interview, because Jake Tapper was defending Biden. Now he's coming out with a book kind of attacking Biden, and everybody's like, wait a minute, dude, you were one of the ones defending him. Now you're coming out and flipping the script. Where were you in saying these things when he was president? You weren't saying any of this shit. And Megyn Kelly's going to hold his feet to the fire on this. At least I think she is. So I'm going to hear what he has to say about that. So that book. And I believe there are a few others, but that's the one that's getting the most attention. Rodney said Joe claimed his administration was going to cure cancer. Yeah, they all claim that. Every administration claims they're going to do stuff and don't do it. So, I mean, we can't just put that on Joe Biden. Every president claims they're going to do shit that they don't do. Fitzgerald said giving back can get you unalived. Yeah, you can get, like Nipsey Hussle. Dowie said, Dre, there's plenty of straw mans today. You have your pick of the litter. Well, you know what? Certain topics tend to draw more straw mans than others. So anything that has to do with the president is going to draw a bunch of straw mans, because people tend to throw out the straw mans about Donald Trump. It's just natural. It's just like a natural reaction that people have. Robin Coate, speaking of such, look at what Robin says. Mr. McFellin has destroyed our country, and to talk about Joe Biden and his cancer is despicable. There's a straw man right there. This Mr. McFellin. I never heard anybody use that one yet. So, Robin, I give you credit for that one. But we will point out you for the straw man. Congratulations to you on the straw man. And this is, again, I keep forgetting that term. I got to keep looking at it till it sticks in my mind. The relative privation fallacy. There are more important things. Mr. McFellin destroying our country instead of talking about Joe Biden and his cancer. That's despicable. That is called the relative privation fallacy. So congratulations, Robin Coates, on, first of all, the straw man, which is the oldest fallacy in the world. And now we got the new straw man, which is the relative privation. So Robin, 2-1. I don't think that's what you were aiming for, but you got the trophy. Not underscore said, yeah, that should have been caught way earlier. Well, I think it was caught. The thing is, it wasn't announced. That's what I believe. Duke's mom said, it's so frustrating that we were lied to, and worse, gaslit when we raised concerns. Yes, I agree with that. Donna Bazell said it was skin cancer that he had removed. Who are you talking about? Duke's mom said they make the person raising the legitimate concern feel like the bad guy. Yes, that's the whole conspiracy theory thing. So we're at 70,000 likes. Folks, can we get to 75, please? Colin Brown says, who had the nuclear codes? Jill, Hunter, Obama, who knows? Hopefully we don't need to use nuclear codes. So I don't know who had the codes, but whoever it was, a good thing they didn't use them. I don't think we want to go that route with anybody these days. So Where are we at? Can we get to 75,000 likes, folks, please? We're at 71,000. Can we please get to 75? Just tap the screen, please. Robin said, no cover-up was done. PSA and DGR can be negative and still have even stage 4 prostate cancer. Not according to what I heard the doctor say on Megyn Kelly yesterday, Robin. So if you are offering a different opinion, you are entitled to that. But that is not what I heard the doctor say yesterday. And then Obama's doctor, who actually put together Obamacare, he confirmed the same thing the other doctor said, that you find this stuff 5 to 10 years in advance. And to get to this stage, it is very unlikely. They didn't say it's impossible, but it's highly unlikely that you're just now finding it out at this stage with the person who has access to this many doctors, which means not like he didn't go to the hospital for 20 years like some men. It wasn't that. So according to what they said, that is not true. But you're entitled to your opinion. Not underscore said crying Joe. Yeah, it was Joe Scarborough. It wasn't Cuomo. It was Joe Scarborough with the cogent. Carla said, Joe still needs to answer what happened to the intern. What intern? I don't even know what happened to the intern. Who are you talking about? Cass said Obama had a third term. I don't know if Obama wants to take credit for Joe Biden's term. Some said white powder in the White House. Carla, I don't know about that. Cher said, it's wild how the black community loves JB considering he never wanted his white kids in a racial jungle. Well, people tend to forget about him saying that because it was so long ago and because he was running against Donald Trump, so it didn't matter. So there were some black people who you would bring that up to them and they would say, okay, but he's running against Donald Trump. So what am I supposed to do? Vote for Donald Trump? Is this racist or this racist? Which one we want? And a lot of black people said, I'd rather Joe Biden than Donald Trump, despite that. Or you just got the cognitive dissonance of, well, so what? That's basically what I just explained, cognitive dissonance. Duke's mom said, what does Trump have to do with the president that had cognitive issues and a hidden cancer diagnosis? The answer is he has nothing to do with it, but people keep bringing him up in this conversation. That's why I'm getting so many straw mans today, because people are trying to change the subject. Not underscore said, this is a recording or is he reading comments from another platform? He's not reading from here. Not underscore dash, now I just proved you wrong. This is not a recording. I am reading from here. I'm just reading from the older comments to the newer comments. Social media has warped many of you all's brains to think that you deserve some type of instant gratification just because you left a comment on social media. All right, relax. Y'all see the marshmallow test? Carla said they keep bringing up Trump because they have TDS. Yes, that's one reason. NL said Trump is super sharp. My grandma was sharp up to her death. She was in her 90s when she passed. Yeah, exactly. So some people just stay sharp even when they're older, and some people they slow down. Like my grandma, both my grandmas. You're gonna get two grandmas, right? You can get two. One of my grandmothers is slowing down. She's mentally a lot slower, and they're both around the same age. And then my other grandmother, she's still pretty sharp. One of them needs assistance. She gets assisted care at home. She lives with somebody else and gets assisted care. And my other grandma still lives by herself. And they're both close to the same age. So it's not the same for everybody. Hopefully, all of us, we stay sharp until the last day. Rodney said, Dre, do you remember when Joe said he was going to cure cancer? No, because number one, I wouldn't have cared if he said that because I know it's a political pitch and I don't believe anything politicians say. They're all liars. But I don't remember that. But if you say he said it, then I believe you that he said it. Let's see. Duke's mom said, I think you can pardon people anytime during your tenure. Yes, I think you can as well, Dukes. The thing is, he wanted to do it at the end so that he didn't have to deal with a whole bunch of backlash for having done it. Because if you do it at the beginning of your term, now people can ask you about it for 4 years. So if you do it on your last day, now nobody can ask you shit because you're leaving. So I get why he did it. Jelt said, Trump thinks groceries is a new word and he only made them more expensive. Jelt, is that the best comment you can come up with? P Dazzle, good morning to you. We got about 18 minutes on comments, folks. Then we'll wrap this up. Stacey G said he was referring to Biden ruining it for 4 years. Trump can't fix it in a few months. Oh, okay. I get what you're saying. I understand. Non underscore said J6 is a holiday. It should be. I wouldn't mind. Non underscore said I celebrate J6. I was there. All right. Shout out to everybody who was there on J6. King Brenton said because Trump put those individuals in place and they have limited qualifications. Talking about his cabinet. How do you define a qualification? People start throwing this word out around the time Kamala became the nominee. It's qualifications. How do you define whether someone is qualified or not? My definition of qualification is as soon as you start doing it, you're qualified. And that's how I define it. But going over somebody's resume, like that makes them qualified, or you got this resume, so you're not qualified. Not really. What makes you qualified to do something is the fact that you're doing it, period. And if you're not doing it, you're not qualified. Nisi said, what type of cancer is it? I believe it's prostate, is what I heard. User said, hell no to a female being president. They're too emotional. Well, not every female is the same, but I was just speaking in general terms. Generally, directionally, you're correct. P. Dazzle said, I believe Joe's wife should have encouraged him not to run. He's been ill and declined fast. I bet that she probably, I don't know. I don't know enough about Dr. Jill Biden to know if she would advise him to not do it or to do it. Some say, I've heard Megyn Kelly talk about this, that Jill Biden loved being connected to all that power of being president. Therefore, she didn't want him to walk away because she wanted to stay connected. That's what some say. I don't know enough about her to have my own theory on Jill Biden, Dr. Jill Biden. And on top of that, if Joe is the man in the relationship, which it appears he is, and she's the woman, well, right now, maybe not so much because he's declining. But when he was his normal self, I don't think Joe Biden's the kind of guy to let his wife tell him what to do. He doesn't seem like that kind of guy. So I don't know what it is now because he's declined. But when he was himself, I don't think his wife's going to tell him what to do, especially a job that he's had for 50 years being in politics. Now you going to come along and tell me what to do? I've been doing this for 50 years. How long have you been doing it, wife? All right, be quiet and go make me a sandwich. I think that's what he would have said to his wife. Just my theory. King Brenton says that's because Trump continues to speak on previous administrations, et cetera, right now. Every president does it. He speaks on right now, too. Trump speaks on everything. He does press conferences every day. And so one press conference is more than Joe Biden did in 4 years. Let's see. Britt said, we haven't had the best woman for the presidency come forward yet. Well, obviously. That's why they haven't won. I agree with you. Yes, we have not. User said, our country is doomed if a female becomes president. Well, it almost happened. It almost happened. And I agree with you. We would have been, I wouldn't say doomed, but we would have been going backwards if Kamala had won that election. We would have been going backwards. And it's not so much about Kamala herself. It's about the fact that we're even at the point where we're like, let's put a woman in charge just because it's a woman. And this is the mistake that Hillary made. It's also the mistake that Kamala made. And any woman who wins presidency can't make this mistake of vote for me because I'm a woman. Support me because I'm a woman. That's a bullshit frame. That sounds good if you're asking me to buy some Girl Scout cookies, but it doesn't sound good. You're asking me to choose you to be the leader of the country. So different frames work for different reasons. ZZ said, women weren't given the opportunity to found this country. That's why men founded it, not superiority. ZZ, that's complete bullshit frame. First of all, opportunity to found a country is not given. It's not like there was some committee that said, all right, we want you guys over there to found America. No, they said, we're going to do it. A bunch of men came in here. There were people already here, and they took that shit. That's how we got America. That's how it happened. You're not given the opportunity to lead. You take it. So ZZ, the fact that you just said that, assuming that you're a woman, I'm assuming you're a woman. I'm hoping you're a woman saying that, or you're just a feminine energy man. That is a bullshit frame. So you're not given the opportunity to take charge. You take the opportunity to take charge. Just the fact that you framed it that way tells me that you must be a female, or I hope you're a female. Jenny said, I'm female and I believe the president of the United States should be a male. Well, I appreciate you saying that, Jenny. There are a lot of women who do agree with that, but there's a bunch of women who are bought into this bullshit of feminism who think that a woman should have any role that a man could possibly have. That is a dangerous frame, and it's a nonsense argument. If you think a woman could take a spot from a man, there's nothing wrong with you thinking that, but you need to give me a logical reason as to why, not just because she's a woman. If you think a woman can be CEO of a company, cool. A woman can be CEO of a company, but why? What's the reason why this woman should be CEO? If your only reason is because she's a woman and men have always been CEO, that is a bullshit reason. Same thing I would say if you say the black person should be the president. Why? Just because he's black? No, I don't agree. If they're good and they happen to be black, great. But just because they're black is not a good enough reason. And you could apply any other identity just because they're gay or whatever other thing you got. None of those is good enough. I do not play identity politics. I play performance politics. Not underscore said we can't have a leader that needs a week off every month. LOL. Not underscore dash. From what I understand, it comes to a certain point that women don't need that week off anymore. It comes to a certain point. It's called menopause. I think Kamala might have already been through that. P. Dazzle said, I believe Joe's wife should have cursed him. Oh, you already read that. All right, let's see. Robin, thank you for the follow. Donna Bazell said, but the good women are taking care of those men so they can do those things. Yes, exactly. That's the natural role of a woman. But Donna, I think you can understand in the world that we're in today that a lot of women are rejecting that frame of I don't just need to be with a man or support a man or be behind a man. I can do other things. There's nothing wrong with a woman thinking that way. All right. Some of them I work with as coaching clients of mine, they want to do other things. They're not just barefoot in the kitchen, metaphorically speaking. And that's completely fine. But they're doing it because they bring some substance to the table. If you're a woman and you bring substance and you get into a leadership position, great. But if you want to be in a leadership position and your only argument is I should lead because I'm a woman and the leader has always been a man, so now we just need to have a woman just to have a woman, that's bullshit. I don't agree with that. So as long as a woman brings substance, she is welcome to throw her hat into the ring just like a man would. But you got to beat the men to get the role. The same way that the man got to beat other men, the woman, you got to beat the men. If you want to be in a leadership spot, you got to earn it. We're at 88,000 likes, folks. Can we get to 100K, please? Can we get to 100,000 likes here today? We're at 89,000 now. Can we get to 100K? Just tap the screen, please, everybody. Let's see. Love Me For Real said, as men and women that have protected us, women have contributed greatly. Bible has female leaders. Love Me For Real, why are you trying to make this a both thing? Men are the leaders of society. That is period. That is unequivocal. You can't name a single thriving society in the history of mankind that was led and run by women. There is not one. Not one. And why are we even talking about this? We're supposed to be talking about Joe Biden. But I guess we exhausted the Joe Biden conversation. You can't name a single civilization outside of the movies with Queen Latifah. What was that called? What was that movie called with Queen Latifah? The Woman King? What was the name of that movie? Where it was like that army of women who took over Africa or whatever the hell that was supposed to be. That only happens in the movies. In real life, that doesn't happen. In real life, they would have got slaughtered. In real life, they actually did get slaughtered. They just didn't put that part in the movie. Parker said, that's what defines us. I embrace it as some are confused because of crazy ideology. Yes. And Love Me For Real, nowhere did I say women have not contributed. I said very clearly, there are certain things that women can do that women need to be doing, such as giving birth. A man can't give birth. There are certain things that men need to do that men need to do, such as leading and being in a leadership position. You said the Bible has female leaders. Okay, let's just assume that what you're saying is accurate. What the hell does that have to do with my point? How does that refute my point? And the answer is it doesn't. Let's see here. Britt says you can't hang with the big dog, stay on the porch. Yeah, pretty much. Jake Tapper, yeah, Original Sin. Yes, that's the book. And Not Underscore said Jake assisted in the cover-up. Yeah, he did, which makes it ironic that he's coming out with a book talking about the cover-up. So very convenient for Jake Tapper. Good business move by Jake Tapper, and also very convenient by Jake Tapper. King said, don't mean the books are completely factual. Well, King, what is completely factual these days? The answer is pretty much nothing. Nothing is completely factual because none of us have to agree on facts anymore. We can all go get our own facts from anywhere we want, and we can use AI and create our own facts anytime we feel like it. So there's no such thing as completely factual anymore. There used to be, but not anymore. Jake Tapper said he's sharp like everyone else. Not Underscore. Yeah, he did. That's why, again, it's very convenient for Jake. He's eating from both sides. Sam said, I think starting with his doctor, anyone who kept Biden's decline hidden should be prosecuted. Well, that ain't going to happen. I mean, I get what you're saying, but that ain't going to happen. We're at 95,000 likes, folks. Can we get 5,000 more likes to get to 100K today? King Britain said, fiction books are written all the time. Yes, as a matter of fact, fiction books sell better than nonfiction books. Literally speaking, they do. So a few more questions, comments, and then we'll wrap this up. Jay said Hillary Clinton was just as competent as any man that has been elected. Define competence, Jay Singleton. What do you mean by competent? There's a lot of competent people who have never become president. We've only had, 47 presidents, and some of them, and Trump did it twice. A couple of them did it twice. So just being competent is not enough reason to be president, obviously. Carl said there are some countries with male leaders that don't do well with women leaders. Well, the world is the thing that has made the world different these days. When you see women in leadership positions, the reason women can lead in certain situations these days is because the world is relatively safe. And the woman leader, quote unquote, can always call on a man if she gets in serious trouble. If Kamala Harris had won the election and a bunch of men said, we don't want a woman in charge, and they tried to kick down the doors to the White House, what would happen? A bunch of security men would come and get rid of that problem. right? It ain't like Kamala will go out there and fight herself. And it's not saying Donald Trump's going to go out there and fight, or Joe Biden or Barack Obama will go out there and fight, but they're men. The creator deemed men to be in charge. That's it. Men are made to lead, and women are made to support the man. It doesn't mean a woman cannot lead, and doesn't mean a man cannot support. But this is the natural role of a man, is to lead. The natural role of a woman is to support a man. That's a natural role. Doesn't mean that you're wrong if you're not playing the natural role, but these are the natural roles of men and women. I do understand why some people push back against this, but they shouldn't. Again, it doesn't mean you're wrong if you're not doing it, but this is just what it is. Not underscore said no woman was going to hop on a ship and go exploring, at least not until a man showed that it was possible to do it successfully. Brian said Tulsi Gabbard. What about her? Viola Davis. Yeah, was she in that movie? Mr. Ohio J said money isn't the cure, it's the medical treatment. What about it? James Collier said Karen Jean-Pierre slipped up and said Obama while talking about Biden, like we didn't know. Oh, well, I didn't know about that. I didn't see that. All right, a few more comments, folks. We got 6 minutes here, and then we'll wrap this up. Where was I? Viola Davis was the woman king? Oh, I thought it was Queen Latifah. It was Viola Davis? Okay. All right, the point still stands. Viola Davis ain't no man. All right, and that's why they had to do a movie. That's why they had to do a movie about it. Because it ain't happening in real life. This, Dimitri said, are you referring to women fighting war? I'm referring to women leading in war, not fighting, leading. You can't name a successful army that was led by, that was an all-woman army. There aren't any. There's never been one. And there will never be one. And this is what you all got to understand. The bottom line in communication in life, agreement and especially conflict, comes down to violence. That's the bottom line in life. It's violence. If two people cannot agree on something and we can't settle it amicably, then we settle it physically. And how is a group of women going to defeat a group of men in a physical battle? The answer is they won't. This is the reason why men run the world, because if push comes to shove and it becomes a physical altercation that we can't solve verbally, then women can't win. And this is why men run things. That's why men are in charge. That is literally the reason. If two men are having a disagreement verbally and we can't settle it verbally, then we got to settle it physically. And whichever man is better at fighting is the one who's going to win. Or whichever man has the weapon is going to win. The reason why the government cannot do crazy shit in the United States of America is because so many citizens have guns. The government can't get crazy because the citizens are going to take up arms and beat the government back. The government ain't got that many people. There are more of us than it is of them. And they can't overtake the citizens because we have guns. The bottom line is violence. When we had the scamdemic a few years ago and they started to lift the restrictions in different parts of America, you know where the restrictions got lifted first? In all the red places. All the red parts of America, that's where the restrictions got lifted first. And in the blue parts, that's where the restrictions got lifted last. Why is this? Because in the red parts, they got guns. In the blue parts, they don't. And that's why they got subjugated more and for longer. Because they didn't have a weaponry to enforce what they wanted. In the red parts of America, those of you who live in blue areas or never been to a red area or don't know anybody who lives in red areas, ask them. They'll tell you. People who are listening to this, cosign that. Please cosign what I just said. If you live in a red area of America, put cosign in the comments. If you live in a red area of America and you are cosigning that because of the people in that area and because of the weapons that people in that area have, if you all want something to go a certain way, it goes that way, and the cops ain't going to stop you because y'all got weapons. That's how it works in the red areas of the country. So those of you from big cities, those of you who live in blue areas and blue states, all right, y'all, that sounds like a foreign concept to you because you ain't been anywhere. But in the red areas, they get what they want. If all the citizens in that town say this is how it's going, the mayor ain't stopping them. The mayor ain't getting in it. The mayor ain't getting in the way. The mayor is like, okay, hey, they don't want restrictions anymore. Okay, no more masks, no more sheltering in place, no more 6 feet apart. Okay, do what you want to do. Do what you want. You got all those guns, do what you want. Now, in the big cities, when ain't none of y'all got no guns, they tell you what to do. And y'all got to listen to the governor or the mayor, and y'all get on Instagram and bitch about it because you ain't got no guns. When you got guns, you can get your way. That's how it works, in case any of you didn't know. I'm saying all that to say this. The reason why men have run the world is because if it comes down to a physical battle between men and women, women will not win. And the women who understand this are happy playing their position in support of a man. And the women who don't understand this, they buy into this bullshit called feminism, that a woman can do everything a man can do. Yeah, that's what you think until push comes to shove and you realize that you can't. And then you get subjugated by a man because you thought you could do everything a man could do because it looked good on TV and it sounds good in the movies. It's a whole different ball game when you got to actually do it. And people just need to understand this. All right, this is the reason why America is America. America came here. It was people here already, right? The Native Americans. And the settlers said, okay, let's see if we can work with these people. They realized they couldn't work with them. They said, okay, these people don't want to listen to us. We don't want to listen to them. Okay, so let's get our guns. And guess what? The people who have more guns won. And that's why you have reservations where they live and the rest of the country belongs to everybody else because of the guns. That's it. If the Native Americans had more guns, then we would not have the country that we have right now. That's what it comes down to. The bottom line of communication between human beings is violence. If we can't settle it in any other way, it comes down to violence. Therefore, if you are not capable of inflicting violence or defending yourself against violence, you have no choice but to listen to whoever is capable and wants to tell you what the rules are. You have no choice but to listen to their rules because you don't have the physicality to defend yourself. Period. That's the way life works, in case any of you didn't know. Okay, if you remember they had that whole defund the police thing a few years ago. A bunch of people in blue cities were talking about defund the police, sounding fucking stupid. Why would you want to defund the police and you ain't got no gun? What do you think they're going to do as soon as they know that, as soon as the savages in the streets know that you don't have the police to call, and they know that you don't have a gun, and they know that you can't fight? What do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen? You talking about defund the police? No, you don't want to defund the police. You want to refund the police. You want to give the police as much money as possible. Because if you don't have a gun and you can't fight, and there's people over there who do have guns and they can fight, oh, they coming to your neighborhood. Oh, let's go to the rich neighborhood where they got all this nice stuff and no guns. Oh, we taking all their shit. Y'all didn't want the defunding of the police. It sounded good on TV. You don't want the defunding of the police if you ain't got no guns. Are you stupid? That doesn't make any sense. People want to defund the police with no guns. Crazy. Anyway, where was I? Let me read a couple more comments, then we'll wrap this up. Britt said, cosign, we're all strapped around here. Yeah, I don't even live in I live in Florida, but I'm a city guy. But I know a lot of red dwelling people. I know a lot of people who live in red areas. And they told me what all of y'all cosigning. They all got guns. Everybody got guns. 8-year-olds got guns. And they all know how to shoot too. So you people from blue cities, you go to these suburban places, don't act crazy. All right, everybody got a gun. In the cities, you don't see that as much. But in the red areas, I know it. I know it to be true. Ruthie said the sheriff can rule over everyone if he wants enforcement a law or not. Okay, fair enough. Odie Panky said we can't do everything a man can do. Yes, and a man can't do everything a woman can do. A man can't give birth. I mean, so again, there's a give and take. Each side needs something. Diana said there's equality in many things. Men were created for certain things, and so were women. Yes, exactly. Florida gal said, that's true. My husband is Native American. Yes. Yeah, we all know what happened to Native Americans. People talk about it like, oh, these white settlers came in and it's stolen lands. No such thing as stolen land. You don't own land. You control land. If another country comes into America and they beat us back with their guns, it's their land. They didn't steal it. They took it. They didn't steal it. Steal it is when you own something. If I don't own it, you didn't steal it. The Native Americans didn't own the land. They controlled the land. They occupied it. And when the settlers came in and said, okay, we're not getting along anymore, we're taking this shit, or y'all can beat us, or we're going to beat y'all, but whoever wins is taking the land. The settlers won, and they took the land. That's how it works. It's not stolen. They just beat you. You just got beat. That's what happened. You just got beat in competition. So Carl said keeping schools closed for years. Yeah, pretty much, because the people didn't pull out their guns. Florida gal said, Florida don't play. That's for sure. I love it here. Well, you better just we hope that we keep a Republican governor. DeSantis I've liked. For the most part, I've liked DeSantis, but he's about to be out of his term. So I hear his wife is going to try to run, and I hear Donalds is going to try to run, but they're both Republicans. So as long as it stays red, I'm happy. That's all I'm saying. I just want the state of Florida to stay red. Britt said gun-related injuries and deaths happen tenfold in cities. Yeah, because you got a bunch of savages using guns who don't know how to shoot and they're not properly trained. They don't know how to use guns in a logical, smart way. They use it in a reckless way. And a lot of them have guns that they ain't even supposed to have. So they use guns recklessly. See, if you're in a place where if you walk into a restaurant and you know every single person in that restaurant got a gun, nobody gets out of line. Everybody is respectful of everybody because you know they got a gun. They know you got a gun. Everybody is chill. Everybody's respectful. Everybody's please, excuse me, good morning, how you doing? Everybody's nice when you know everybody else got a gun. But if you got a gun and you know other people don't, then you might get reckless, or you think nobody has a gun, then you got people in there acting like they ain't got no sense. That's what you get in blue cities. In red areas, people do not get wild because you know and they know something might happen. And they ain't got to be physically imposing. You ain't got to be physically imposing and pull something off your waist and use it. So, all that said, folks, let's wrap this up. We're after 10 o'clock. Tomorrow's topic, I don't know yet. Again, this is always to be determined because if something happens in the news today, I might bump it off. I wasn't even going to talk about Joe Biden yet, but then when they came out with the cancer diagnosis that they just discovered, I moved it up. So we still got to talk about this. Donald Trump is trying to lower pharmaceutical prices, allegedly. We will talk about that eventually. We might talk about this alleged possible pardon of Derek Chauvin, the cop from Minneapolis. I don't know if that's actually going to happen, but we'll see. So those are possible topics, but this is all to be determined. We don't know what the topic will be, but I will be back here tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern. Click the links in my profile or in my bio, whichever app you're watching me on. You can learn more about me, working with me, get access to our chat bot called Dre GPT, get the replays on my YouTube channel, follow me on Instagram. You get access to some of my free books. So some of my books you see here behind me, the Sales Discipline System, you can get this book free. The third day, you can get that book free. The Mirror of Motivation, that's back here. You can get this book free. So if you just go to the link in my profile on TikTok, which is workonyourgame.live, you can get the links to all of those things that I just mentioned, my YouTube, my Instagram, what else? Work on Your Game University, which is where I do my coaching and consulting. My handle on X is at Dre All Day, and on TikTok is Work on Your Game, Crespo Realty. So Dre All Day on X, and on TikTok, it's Work on Your Game. Or just look up my name, Crespo Realty. Just look up Dre Baldwin, and you'll see me on whichever app. Ain't too many people named Dre Baldwin. I'm the most famous Dre Baldwin in the world. So if you just look up Dre Baldwin on any application, you don't need to know my handles. Look up Dre Baldwin, and I'm pretty easy to find. I don't have any competition for Dre Baldwin. Now, Dr. Dre sometimes gets me into the Google search results, but if you just look up Dre Baldwin, then I'll come up. All right, so I will see all of you at 8 a.m. tomorrow, 8 a.m. Eastern tomorrow. 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. is when we do these live streams. I'll see y'all tomorrow morning. Thank you, everybody, for jumping in. Thank you to my moderators here on TikTok, keeping the peace over here in the comment section. And thank you for me getting to 100,000. I forgot to mention that. 100,000 likes here today. Appreciate everybody. Thank you, Carla, for keeping things in order. I see Dally MAK over here as well, and a few others that have been in here this morning. See y'all tomorrow. Work on your game. We are out of here.